Chapter 2601. Don't worry. With your talent, it's only a matter of time before you enter the imperishable realm. Ancestral Dragon smiled. Imperishable realm? Frenzy shook his head and smiled bitterly. I haven't even reached the 9 heavens realm. How would I dare to think about the imperishable realm? You have to believe in yourself. Ancestral Dragon smiled. In the past, he used Frenzy to enter Fallen Valley. But now, he truly treated Frenzy as his disciple. Of course, this was also because of Frenzy's value. Just like what Yi Zhong said, Frenzy's existence was enough to change the fate of the dragons. Although this process would take a long time, the dragons could wait. If Frenzy didn't have such value, then in the eyes of Ancestral Dragon, he would be the same as other humans, a cannon fodder that could be used. All right, I believe that I can do it, Frenzy said heroically. Ancestral Dragon shook his head and smiled. He looked up at the night sky and said, I believe you heard it just now. After dawn, we will go to Qingyu City to snatch the heaven-defying artifact. Frenzy nodded. Don't go, Ancestral Dragon said. Why? Frenzy frowned. If he wanted to stop the dragons from snatching the artifact, he had to follow them to find an opportunity. The blood demons in Qingyu City are all extremely terrifying. There are at least tens of thousands of them at the Perfection 9 Heavens realm. To be honest, if you follow us, you will only cause trouble for us. So it's better for you to stay here and cultivate. Ancestral Dragon said. Tens of thousands? Frenzy was shocked. Yes, and these tens of thousands are just ordinary blood demons. The most powerful ones are the 10 commanders. Each of them has heaven-defying strength. One-on-one, even I don't have the confidence to defeat them. Especially Qingyu, who leads the blood demons. I'm afraid that even if we join forces, we might not be able to defeat him. Ancestral Dragon said. It can't be. Frenzy was shocked. Of course, if we can unleash our peak strength, killing him won't be a problem. Ancestral Dragon said confidently. That's for sure. After all of you are supreme experts. Frenzy said. Unfortunately, this is the Underworld King's hell. There are rules and restrictions. Even our dragon clan is unable to break this rule. Ancestral Dragon shook his head. Madman pondered for a moment and said, All right, I'll stay here and cultivate. I won't cause trouble for you. Yes. Ancestral Gragon nodded. After chatting for a while, Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon sat cross-legged on the ground and prepared for battle. Madman also closed his eyes. However, in his heart he had been pondering, what can I do to destroy the dragon's plan? Suddenly, an idea flashed through his mind. The simplest method was to inform the blood demon race of the news. As long as the blood demon race knew about this in advance, no matter how thorough Yi Zhong's plan was, it would not succeed. Furthermore, the blood demon race could still beat the dragons at their own game. They wouldn't be able to kill a single assassin, so they might be able to get rid of these people in one fell swoop. But if he wanted to send a message, he had to leave first. But how could he leave without arousing the suspicions of Yi Zhong and the others? The people here were all cunning old foxes. The slightest carelessness would arouse their suspicions. He had to do it flawlessly. Suddenly, Madman opened his eyes and looked up at the evil moon in the sky. A glint flashed across his eyes. Immediately after, Madman stood up and without saying anything, he soared into the sky. What are you doing? Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon heard the commotion and opened his eyes to ask Madman. Yi Zhong and the others also looked at him suspiciously. Huh? Madman grinned and rushed into the sky without looking back. Could it be? Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon suddenly thought of something and suddenly stood up and shouted at Madman. Come back! Old Black, what is he doing? The blood-red clothed youth and the others also quickly stood up and asked Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon said in a deep voice. He probably wants to get close to the evil moon. What? Is he courting death? Even the evil power that permeates the void can bring us a great threat, not to mention the evil moon. Why aren't you stopping him? The white-clothed woman shouted. In their opinion, this was no different from courting death. So, Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon rushed into the sky, and in a few blinks of an eye, He stood in front of Madman and said angrily, "Do you want to die? Don't you know that I can absorb the evil power? What are you afraid of?" Madman whispered, "I know you can absorb it, but you have to know that it's the evil moon. The evil power contained in the evil moon is not something you can imagine. You can't be reckless just because you can absorb the evil power." Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon said, "Don't worry. I will act according to my ability. Perhaps if I get closer to the evil moon, my cultivation speed will be faster." Madman said indifferently, "No. This is too risky. If you can't absorb that much, won't your life be in danger?" Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon shook his head. "I know my limits. If I can't absorb that much, I will retreat. We'll talk about it later." "I'm doing this for your sake," Madman said. "For our sake?" Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon was stunned. "That's right. Think about it. If I can absorb the entire evil moon and make it disappear, then the blood demons won't be able to transform at night. Then wouldn't it be easier to deal with them?" Madman said. "That's true. If the blood demons can't transform, then we won't have to worry too much about dealing with them." Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon nodded. "And in the future, you won't have to worry about being eroded by the evil power. Killing two birds with one stone, how perfect." Madman chuckled. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon rolled his eyes and said, "The idea is good, but is it possible to absorb the entire evil moon? How would I know if I don't try? Just let me try. It's best if it works, but if it doesn't, I'll retreat. We have nothing to lose anyway," Madman said. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon pondered for a moment and nodded. "All right, but you must act according to your ability." "Understood." Madman grinned and turned into a stream of light as he continued to fly toward the evil moon. "Why is he still going?" The white-clothed woman and the others rushed to Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon's side and asked in surprise. "Let him try." Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon sighed. "Maybe he can really do it," Yizhong said. "Hun." Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon nodded. Both of their eyes were filled with anticipation. The white-clothed woman and the others were puzzled. What exactly were these two old fellows up to? There's also a dense evil power. As he got closer, the evil power became more and more terrifying. However, Madman's body was like a bottomless pit. He absorbed as much as he killed. Why can I absorb this evil power? Madman had a question in his mind. A moment later, he finally rushed into the clouds and approached the evil moon. His entire body was drowned by the evil power. But even so, he didn't feel any sense of danger. On the contrary, the feeling of familiarity with the evil power was even stronger. It felt as if the evil power was originally a part of his body. It was too strange. Even Madman himself felt that it was inconceivable. Why is he completely fine? There's clearly a large amount of evil power entering his body. What's going on? Looking at Madman standing next to the evil moon, the white-clothed woman and the others were dumbfounded. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon and Yizhong were also shocked. Although they knew that Madman could absorb the evil power, they didn't expect him to be able to get close to the evil moon. Old man Yi, are you hiding something from us?" The white-clothed woman and the others turned to look at the two with a frown. "Shh." Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon made a shushing gesture and continued to pay attention to Madman. At the top of the clouds, looking up from the ground below, the evil moon was only a little bigger than the moon outside. But at this moment, Madman stood at the top of the clouds and looked at the evil moon at a close distance. It was as huge as a star. Blood light covered tens of thousands of miles of starry sky. Standing in front of the evil moon, Madman was as small as a speck of dust. "Why? Why do you give me such a sense of familiarity? What's your relationship with me?" Madman murmured. Ever since he entered the blood channel, the evil power gave him an extremely strong sense of familiarity. There was even an illusion that a wanderer was returning home. It meant that a child who had left had returned to his homeland. Suppressing the throbbing in his heart, Madman took a step forward and disappeared into the blood light. What? What is he doing? He actually entered the evil moon. The white-clothed woman and the others were dumbfounded. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon and Yizhong were also worried at this moment. because that blood light was formed by the evil power. Although they had never been close to the evil moon nor entered it, they could imagine that the evil power contained in the evil moon was definitely countless times more terrifying than the evil power in the blood channel. Could Madman really absorb such a terrifying evil power? Besides Madman, at this moment, just like when Qin Feiyang entered the blood channel, he couldn't see anything in front of him. It was all blood red. The evil power crazily rushed into his body. However, he didn't feel any threat. No matter how much it came, he would take it all. Moreover, that sense of familiarity was getting stronger and stronger. It was as if he was standing in a greenhouse, warm and comfortable. Boom! Suddenly, Madman's aura couldn't help but emerge. And this sudden change startled the Madman, and he quickly immersed his mind into his body. At this moment, his face changed slightly. He found that the divine power in his sea of qi was actually changing. It seemed that the divine power was transforming into evil power. What's going on? Madman was stunned. He himself was also puzzled. Yi Zhong and the others also felt Madman's aura. Their eyes were full of surprise. What happened? Whoosh! Suddenly, Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon turned into a stream of light and rushed towards the evil moon. Old Black, what are you doing? Yi Zhong quickly changed and chased after him. He must be in trouble. I have to save him, Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon said in a deep voice. Are you crazy? It's not like we haven't tried. There's no way to get close. Yi Zhong shouted. I don't care so much. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon's face sank. This bastard brat. I told him not to go, but he insisted on going. Now that he encountered trouble, he didn't even know how he died. Chapter 2602. Although Ancestral Dragon didn't listen to his advice and insisted on going, he had no choice but to stop before he reached the clouds. Because the evil force here had exceeded the range he could bear. If he continued to approach, he was afraid that even he would be completely corroded by the evil force. What should I do? Ancestral Dragon was burning with anxiety. Don't worry. As long as his aura is still there, it proves that he's not dead. Yi Zhong comforted. Inside the evil moon, Madman had been paying attention to the changes in divine power. Time passed bit by bit. About half an hour later, the divine power in his sea of qi had actually all transformed into evil force. When the divine power transformed into evil force, the evil moon was no threat to him. What's going on? Madman frowned. Boom. Suddenly, the aura all over his body began to soar. Madman was stunned. This was a breakthrough? He quickly confirmed, and was pleasantly surprised to find that it was really a breakthrough. Although he was about to break through to perfection before entering the Nether King's hell, it would have taken at least a few thousand years outside. And now, with the transformation of divine power, he actually skipped these few thousand years and directly broke through. This was really an unexpected surprise. Boom! Several breaths later, his cultivation had finally reached the level of a great god. High in the sky below, Yi Zhong and the others all stared at Evil Moon in shock and bewilderment. Because they all sensed the aura of Madman's breakthrough. He actually broke through a realm? What was going on? Old Black Yi Zhong, shouldn't you tell us the truth now? The blood-red youth looked at Yi Zhong and Madman frowning. The two looked at each other. Ancestral Dragon shook his head and said, This is the surprise I want to give you. What do you mean? The group was even more puzzled. Ancestral Dragon said, Madman can absorb the evil force. So that's how it is. The group suddenly understood. Wait, what did you say? Say it again. What a hindsight. However, Ancestral Dragon and Yi Zhong were not surprised by their reactions. Because this was indeed an extremely inconceivable matter. I said that the Madman can absorb the evil energy and turn it into his own to increase his cultivation. The Ancestral Dragon spoke again. How is this possible? With a tacit understanding, the group of people called out in unison. Their faces were filled with disbelief. Absorbing evil energy? To improve his cultivation? You must be joking. This exalted knows that you all find this very hard to believe. However, the scene before your eyes is the truth. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon said. Yeah. Not only was he fine after entering the evil moon, He even used the power of the evil moon to make a breakthrough. What a freak! Yi Zhong also shook his head. The group of people looked at the evil moon again, and the shock in their hearts could not be calmed down for a long time. Was he a freak? Needless to say, he could only be described as a freak. Madman didn't know about the shock of the people outside, nor was he in the mood to pay attention to it. After retracting his aura, he looked into the depths ahead, because after the divine energy transformed into the evil energy, he inexplicably had a strange feeling in his heart. It was as if there was something in front of him that was guiding him. Master, I'm fine. I plan to cultivate in seclusion here. You all go prepare for battle. Madman roared and took a step forward. Following that inexplicable guidance, he walked into the depths. This bastard kid. Outside. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon couldn't help but laugh when he heard this. It was really frightening. Haha. Now you can rest assured. Yi Zhong laughed. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon nodded. Then let's go, adjust our state and prepare for battle, Yi Zhong said. At that moment, the two returned to the canyon, sat cross-legged on the ground, closed their eyes, and refined the evil energy in their bodies. The woman in white and the others looked at the evil moon, unable to recover for a long time. Inside the blood light, Madman didn't know how far he had walked, let alone where he was. In any case, he just followed the guidance and kept moving forward. About half an hour passed. Suddenly, he stopped in his tracks and looked in front of him in surprise. In the void half a meter in front of him, there was actually a blood bead floating. The blood bead was about the size of a palm and was perfectly round, as if it was condensed from blood, emitting a shocking aura. And the evil energy came from this blood bead. What is this? Madman took another half a step forward, almost touching the blood bead. And he found that this blood bead gave him a particularly strong sense of familiarity. But in his mind, there was no memory of the blood bead. Madman sized it up for a moment and tentatively raised his arm, reaching for the blood bead. Boom! However, just as he was about to touch the blood bead suddenly released a blood light, pushing him away. What do you mean? Madman stabilized his body and approached the blood bead again. Although the blood bead pushed him away, it didn't hurt him. After confirming that there was no danger, he raised his arm again and grabbed at the blood bead with lightning speed. This time he touched the blood bead, but the blood bead pushed him away again. And at the same time, Madman hugged his head and howled miserably, because when he touched the blood bead, a scene suddenly appeared in his mind. It was a dark world, a giant that was tens of thousands of feet tall, and a giant dragon that was tens of thousands of feet long was crazily fighting. But this scene only lasted for a moment. After the blood bead pushed him away, the scene disappeared. He didn't even see the faces of the giant and the giant dragon clearly. But in his mind, there was a tearing pain, as if his divine soul was about to shatter. After a moment, the pain disappeared. Madman walked in front of the blood bead with lingering fear, looking at the blood bead in surprise. What was going on? Why did such a scene appear in his mind when he touched the blood bead? A giant that was tens of thousands of feet tall. A giant dragon that was tens of thousands of feet tall. Did all of this have anything to do with him? What happened after that? He raised his arm again and grabbed at the blood bead, faster than before. However, this time, the blood bead didn't give him any chance. No matter what he did, or how fast he was, he couldn't touch the blood bead again. The origin of this blood bead is definitely not simple. Perhaps that giant or the giant dragon is the owner of this blood bead. Wait! The blood bead is the evil moon. That means that the battle between the giant and the giant dragon must have happened in the Nether King Hell. Giant. Madman murmured and couldn't help but frown. Although the previous scene was only for a moment, and he didn't see the giant's face clearly, he faintly noticed that the giant had blood-red hair. Could it be? This giant is from the blood demon race? And the giant dragon? The Nether King Hell was left behind by the dragon god for the dragons. Could it be that this giant dragon is the dragon god of the dragons? Blood demon race? Dragons? Madman kept thinking, and finally came to the most likely conclusion. The scene he saw before might be the battle between the dragons and the blood demon race. Interesting. Madman suddenly smiled. He had a premonition that this Nether King hell wasn't as simple as everyone saw. Look at my brain. I almost forgot about business. Suddenly, Madman patted his head and restrained his aura to the extreme. He used his extreme speed and flew forward without looking back. Not long after, he flew out of the blood light and looked down. His current position was far away from the canyon. Even if he left now, Yi Zhong and the others wouldn't know. Madman lowered his head and muttered to himself. He looked to the left and murmured, I remember, when Yi Zhong and Ancestral Gragon went to the ancient Nether King city, they went in this direction. Immediately, he disappeared into the night sky without saying a word. That's right. He didn't enter the evil moon to cultivate, but to use the cover of the evil moon to leave without anyone knowing. But he didn't expect that under such a coincidence, he would obtain such a great fortune and break through to the perfection paragon god realm. If only Qin Feiyang was here. After taking the Yin Yang Chaos Pill, he might be able to reach the half-step 9th heaven realm. After reaching the half-step 9th heaven realm, his blood demon domain would be able to play a huge role. The blood demon domain could deprive 4 small realms of cultivation. Even the perfection 9th heaven realm wouldn't be able to escape. Just think about it. Originally the perfection 9th heaven realm, if one's cultivation dropped to the initial 9th heaven realm, it would be a fatal blow to anyone. As for Madman, even if his cultivation was at the half-step 9th heaven realm, he was still confident that he could instantly kill an initial 9th heaven realm. After a while, Madman left the giant dragon mountain range and looked at the endless land in front of him. He frowned and said, Where is this ancient Nether King city? He felt a bit regretful. He should have found Yi Zhong and the others to find out the location of the ancient Nether King city before entering the evil moon. There were quite a few fierce beasts below, but these fierce beasts were all above the paragon god realm. With his strength, he wouldn't be able to defeat them and make them speak. And if he fought here, Yi Zhong and the others in the canyon would definitely notice. Whoosh! Taking a deep breath, Madman finally decided to go straight ahead. Soon, he finally met a perfection paragon god fierce beast. It was a blood eagle. Its body was dozens of feet long, and it was like a small mountain, as it laid on top of a mountain. Madman approached without anyone noticing, and directly activated the blood demon domain. He took down the blood eagle and shouted, Do you want to die? Of course not. The blood eagle shook his head. He was shocked by the power of the blood demon domain. Alright then. Tell me, where is the ancient Nether King city? Madman said. Ancient Nether King city. The blood eagle was shocked and said in fear. Why are you asking about the ancient Nether King city? Why are you talking so much nonsense? Just say it when I ask you to. Madman frowned. Okay. Keep walking forward. With your speed, you will reach the ancient Nether King city in 1 or 2 days. The blood eagle said. What the hell? 1 or 2 days? Madman was stunned. The blood eagle nodded. How is it too late? Madman frowned. By the time he reached the ancient Nether King city, Yi Zhong and the others would have already taken action. Chapter 2603. What do you want to do in the ancient city? Let me give you a piece of advice. If you have any evil intentions, you should give up early. Because with your cultivation, you can only show off in front of me. Blood Eagle's eyes were filled with disdain. Frenzy's mouth twitched. He was actually looked down on by a bird. Suddenly, Frenzy sized up Blood Eagle and his eyes flickered. What do you want? Let me tell you, my parents are very strong. You better not hurt me. Blood Eagle stared at Frenzy warily. Madman grinned and said, I'm not scared. Blood Eagle kept retreating. Are you sure you're not lying to me? Frenzy asked. Lying to you? Blood Eagle was slightly stunned. So, he suspected that he was lying. He raged. Can't humans trust each other more? Are you human? Frenzy was speechless. Blood Eagle snorted. Of course I'm not human, but neither are you. And Frenzy was stunned and his veins popped. He shouted, You still dare to scold me? Blood Eagle shrunk his neck. You're not human. You still dare to say, Do you believe that I won't beat you up? Frenzy's face turned black. You're really not human. Why can't I say it? Blood Eagle felt wronged. Frenzy was furious. He kept saying that he wasn't human. Wasn't this scolding him? Wait. Don't tell me you think you're a human, Blood Eagle asked. If not. Frenzy stared at him angrily. Blood Eagle curiously sized up Frenzy and nodded. You do look like a human, but you're also not human. Frenzy couldn't help but laugh. Then tell me, why am I not human? No. Aren't I scolding myself? Frenzy helplessly shook his head and looked at Blood Eagle. Tell me, why don't I look like a human? Because you have the aura of evil. It's impossible for a human to have such an aura. Blood Eagle said. Aura of evil? Frenzy was stunned. He lowered his head and sized himself up. His expression gradually froze. He hadn't felt it before. Now that Shuang had said this, he really did discover that his body was exuding an evil aura. What's going on? Could it be related to the transformed divine power? The madman opened his palm and divine power surged out. This is the power of evil. Why is your divine power evil? Shui Ying's eyes suddenly widened as he stared at the divine power in the madman's hand. His expression was filled with shock. How would I know? I'm pretty depressed right now too. Madman was speechless. This is too strange. Divine power is actually evil power. You're definitely not human. Please, can you stop pretending? Shuang said. I'm not pretending. I'm really a human. Madman roared. I don't believe it. Shuang shook his head. It's none of my business whether you believe me or not. Let me ask you. If you are in the Nine Heavens realm, how long will it take to reach the ancient city of Qingyu? Madman was very depressed. About 2 hours. Shuang quickly said. So, I still have to find a Nine Heavens realm beast to bring me there. Madman frowned. But with his strength, how could he subdue a Nine Heavens realm beast to help him? Convincing it was even more impossible. Human, what are you going to do to our child? But just at this moment, a roar sounded. Following closely, 2 terrifying auras rolled over from afar. Madman was startled as he raised his head to look. He saw 2 Shuang that were over 1,000 feet long flashing their huge wings as they flew over. Moreover, in each of their claws was a huge ferocious beast. But it was already dead. Obviously they were out hunting for food. Father, mother. Shuang that was lying beside Madman also became excited. You really have parents. Madman looked at him in astonishment. You think I'm joking with you? Shuang revealed a look of disdain. Madman's face twitched as he immediately broke into a run. Because those 2 Shuang were in the Nine Heavens realm. If he didn't run, would he be waiting for death? Shuang hurriedly said. Don't run, I was just interested in you. I'm not interested in you. Madman shouted without turning his head. Shuang roared. Father, mother, don't let him run away. He can't run away. You dare to hurt my son. You really don't know life from death. Shui Ying's parents flew to the peak of the mountain, threw away the 2 beasts in their claws, and chased after Madman like lightning. The speed of the Nine Heavens realm was much faster than Madman. In just a few blinks of an eye, Shui Ying's parents stood in front of Madman with a murderous aura. The 2 of you, this is a misunderstanding. Madman hurriedly waved his hand. Misunderstanding? Shui Ying's parents sneered. You also saw it. I didn't hurt your child. I just asked it about the location of the ancient city. Madman said anxiously. Go to hell and explain to the king of hell. Shui Ying's parents sneered and pounced at Madman. Father, mother, don't kill him. Shuang flew over and stood in front of Madman. What? Shui Ying's parents looked at him suspiciously. Shuang said. This human indeed didn't hurt me. And he is also quite interesting. Child, are you having a fever? He is a human. Shui Ying's parents looked at Shuang worriedly. Shuang flew to his parents' side and said. Then take a closer look. Does he have the aura of a human? Shui Ying's parents were stunned and looked at Madman suspiciously. Very soon. Their eyes revealed a hint of surprise. It was actually the aura of the evil force. What was going on? I didn't lie to you, right? He even showed me his divine power just now. His divine power is actually the power of evil. Shuang said. It can't be. Shui Ying's parents looked at each other. Shuang looked at Madman and said. Release your divine power again and let father and mother see. Madman was helpless. A wisp of divine power appeared. It really is the power of evil. Shui Ying's parents carefully identified it for a moment and exclaimed, "Sigh." Madman suddenly let out a long sigh. "What are you sighing for?" Shui Ying looked at him in confusion. "Originally, I didn't want to expose my identity, but I didn't expect you to see through it." "All right. I admit, I am from the blood demon race," Madman said. "What? You are from the blood demon race?" Shui Ying and his parents were shocked. "Yes," Madman nodded. "This is impossible. Even the newborn babies of the blood demon race aren't as small as you," Shui Ying's parents said. "There's no other way. I was born this short." "Why? Do you have any objections?" Madman raised his brows. "We don't dare." Shui Ying's parents hurriedly lowered their heads towards the blood demon race. All living beings in hell were extremely afraid. "Since you already know my identity, then bring me to the ancient city. I have an urgent matter that needs to be reported to Lord King Yu as soon as possible," Madman said. Shui Ying sized up Madman and suddenly said, "Father, mother, he is lying." "Child, you can't talk nonsense." Shui Ying's parents' expression changed as they hurriedly looked at Madman and said, "Lord, we are sorry. We didn't discipline him well." "A child's words carry no harm. It's fine." Madman waved his hand generously. "Father, mother, he is really lying. If he is really from the blood demon race, how can he not know the location of the ancient city?" Shui Ying said. "Yes." Shui Ying's parents' expression changed as they shouted, "You human! You actually dare to pretend to be from the blood demon race. You are really daring." Madman felt bitter in his heart. He had already scared Shui Ying's parents, but he didn't expect to be exposed by this little eagle. "If you are really from the blood demon race, then take off your shoes, and let us see the mark on your feet," Shui Ying said. "Mark?" Madman was slightly stunned. What the hell was this? "See, you don't even know the mark and you still dare to say that you are from the blood demon race." Shui Ying looked at Madman proudly. His eyes were filled with disdain. Seeing this, Madman wished he could slap him. "How dare you lie to us? Go to hell!" Shui Ying's parents shouted. "Don't do it." Madman hurriedly retreated and said in a deep voice, "I really have something important to do and need to see the King Yu. If this matter is delayed because of you, the King Yu will be furious and all of you will have to die." Shui Ying's parents froze and looked at Madman in shock. Shui Ying said, "Father, mother, he must be lying to you again." "Shut up." Madman glared at Shui Ying fiercely and looked at Shui Ying's parents, saying, "I am not joking. This matter is related to the dragons." "Dragons?" Shui Ying's parents were shocked. "After dawn, the dragons will rush to the ancient city of the King Yu. At that time, there will definitely be a bloody battle. I am going to the ancient city of the King Yu to inform the king of this news." Madman said, "Wait a minute. Aren't you humans and dragons on the same side?" Shui Ying's parents said, "Dragons and humans have never been on the same side. In our world, dragons control everything in the world. In front of dragons, humans are even worse than ants." Madman said, "So pitiful?" Shui Ying's parents were surprised. "In any case, we have to head to the ancient city of the King Yu immediately. You don't have to be afraid of me, because with your strength, you can easily kill me. When the time comes, if you find out that I am lying to you, just kill me directly." Madman said, "If you are really lying to us, we don't even need to do anything. The blood demon race will kill you." Shui Ying's parents snorted coldly. "That's right. The most you can do is take me there. It's just a waste of time. You won't lose anything." Madman said. Shui Ying turned to look at his parents and said, looking at him this time, "He doesn't seem to be lying. Why don't you bring him to the ancient city of the King Yu?" Shui Ying's parents pondered for a while and nodded. "All right, we will believe you for now." "Thank you." Madman cupped his hands and smiled. Shui Ying's father looked at Shui Ying's mother and said, "I will bring him there. You stay at home and take care of the child." "Okay." Shui Ying's mother nodded. "Come on up." Shui Ying's father looked at Madman and said. Madman jumped up and landed on Shui Ying's father's back. Whoosh! Immediately, Shui Ying's father spread his wings and turned into a stream of light, disappearing into the horizon. Chapter 2604. A few hours later, On the horizon, a huge silhouette appeared in Lunatic's line of sight. It was the silhouette of an ancient city. Looking from afar, it was like a peerless beast standing on the ground. Lunatic was shocked. This was because he had never seen such a huge city before. That is the ancient city of King Yu, Blood Eagle's father said, as he looked at the ancient city of King Yu from afar. His eyes were filled with respect. Lunatic nodded and asked curiously, "Are there many experts in the ancient city of King Yu?" "Of course," Blood Eagle's father said. "Have you entered it before?" Lunatic asked. "No." Blood Eagle's father shook his head. Lunatic was surprised. "Even with your cultivation level you can't enter?" "This has nothing to do with cultivation level. The ancient city of King Yu is the capital of the Blood Demon race. Only the Blood Demon race is allowed to enter. A ferocious beast like me shouldn't even think about entering. No, even if I am close to the city, I am not allowed," Blood Eagle's father said. Lunatic nodded and said, "Then put me down. I will go alone." "No." Blood Eagle's father shook his head. "What do you mean?" Lunatic was suspicious. Wasn't he not allowed to get close? "It is different this time. You are a human. I have to keep an eye on you and personally hand you over to the Blood Demon race, lest you play any tricks." Blood Demon's father snorted coldly. "Like what your child said, can't there be more trust between humans?" Lunatic was helpless. He was only a perfected paragon god. What tricks could he play in the ancient city of King Yu? Unless he was tired of living, but he felt that he had not lived long enough. "Talking about trust with humans like you, isn't it courting death?" Blood Eagle's father despised him. "All right. Up to you." Lunatic shrugged his shoulders indifferently and looked up at the ancient city of King Yu again. During their conversation, the distance between them had increased by a lot. At this moment, Lunatic could already see the ancient city of King Yu clearly. The ancient city was dark and emitted an ancient aura. The city walls on all sides were towering into the clouds. It was unknown how big the ancient city of King Yu was. Anyway, with Lunatic's current cultivation level, he was unable to see the entire ancient city. The buildings in the city towered into the sky. The entire city could only be described with 4 words: majestic and magnificent. Outside the city, there was a vast plain. On the plains, there were no trees or hills, and the view was very wide. In the center of the plain, there was a platform several meters high. On the platform, a giant was sitting cross-legged. This giant was over 20 meters tall, and his aura had reached the 9th heaven realm. His skin was bronze in color. Like a stone statue, he sat cross-legged on the stone platform motionless. If one didn't know in advance, they would really think that he was a stone statue. Whoosh! Blood Eagle's father brought Madman straight into the plains. "Who gave you the courage to approach the ancient King Yu city?" The blood-eyed giant opened its eyes and raised its head to look at the Blood Eagle. 2 beams of ferocious light shot out of its eyes. "My lord, please don't misunderstand," Shui Ying's father hurriedly spoke. He then rushed to the bottom of the stone platform and prostrated himself on the ground, wanting to explain. "There are still humans." When the blood-eyed giant saw the madman on the blood-eyed giant's back, he was instantly enraged and shouted, "How dare you help a human?" "No, it's not like that," Blood Eagle's father hurriedly said. Madman said helplessly, "Can you not be so hot-tempered? This matter has nothing to do with him. I am the one who asked him to bring me here." "Die!" The blood-eyed giant suddenly stood up. Without a second word, it raised its huge arm and smashed it toward Madman and Blood Eagle's father. "My lord, this is really a misunderstanding. This human said that he has something to report to the ancient King Yu city. Therefore, I brought him here." Blood Eagle's father roared. And the blood-eyed giant was stunned. Its arm also stopped in midair as it looked at Madman with suspicion. "That's right. It is an extremely important matter." Madman nodded. "What is it?" The blood-eyed giant frowned. Madman said, "It is related to the heaven-defying artifact of your ancient King Yu city." "You actually know about the heaven-defying artifact?" The blood-eyed giant's eyes flickered with ferocious light again. Hey, let me tell you, don't test my patience. I am here to inform you guys out of goodwill. If you don't appreciate it, don't regret it in the future." Madman was unhappy. "Impudent. The blood-eyed giant roared. Get lost. I am not in the mood to mess around with you. Bring me to see the ancient king immediately. Madman had an impatient look. You are really courting death. The blood-eyed giant was furious. A mere human actually dared to be so arrogant? If the heaven-defying artifact is snatched because of your delay, I am afraid you will be the one to die. Madman said calmly. The ancient King City is the capital of my blood demon race. Who dares to come and snatch the heaven-defying artifact? I think you just want to take the opportunity to sneak into the ancient King City. You humans are indeed a bunch of cunning creatures. The blood-eyed giant sneered. Its arm that was suspended in midair suddenly smashed down. Unreasonable. Retreat, Madman roared. Blood Eagle's father couldn't care so much and immediately escaped with Madman. Trying to escape? The blood-eyed giant took a step forward and chased after them. Very soon, they entered the mountains outside the plains one after another. Look. This is all because of you. I am going to die because of you. Blood Eagle's father was burning with anxiety. How would I know that the blood demon race is so unreasonable? Madman rubbed his forehead and glanced at the blood-eyed giant behind him with a helpless expression. Was it so difficult to be a good person? Then what should we do now? Blood Eagle's father asked. Madman thought for a moment and sighed. Why don't you abandon me and escape? How would I dare to escape if you didn't explain clearly? The entire Nether King Hell is under the control of the blood demon race. If I escape now, I will be found by them sooner or later. By then, not only will I die, but my wife and children will also die. Blood Eagle's father was very depressed. If he knew this would happen, he wouldn't have bothered with this. Madman said, in that case, we have to clear up this misunderstanding. Of course. Now, you have to meet the ancient king and prove that you have information for him. This way we will be fine, Blood Eagle's father said. That big guy behind didn't even listen to my explanation. How can I meet the ancient king? Madman frowned. This is your problem. You have to think of a solution. Otherwise, I will not let you off even if I become a ghost. Blood Eagle's father said. Don't worry. I will be responsible for you. Madman smiled and lowered his head to ponder. Responsible? Who wants you to be responsible? Blood Eagle's father secretly snorted. He only wanted to clear up this misunderstanding as soon as possible, and then leave the ancient King Hell City. While the one-eyed giant was chasing after Blood Eagle and Madman, a blood-eyed giant was also standing on a mountain peak in the distance. But this blood-eyed giant was a female. Her height was also over 10 meters. She was wearing a black armor and had an aggressive aura. But her cultivation was only at the initial 9 heavens realm. But this wasn't the main point. The main point was on the shoulder of this female giant was a golden wolf cub. At this moment, this wolf cub stared in the direction of Madman and the others with a bewildered expression. It seems to be Madman. That's right. It's this guy. The wolf cub was shocked and said to the female giant, Blockhead, quickly go over and take a look. The female giant was shocked and hurriedly said, This isn't good. That clansman of mine is at the perfection 9 heavens realm. If he sees me with you, he will definitely not let me off easily. With this brother protecting you, what are you afraid of? The wolf cub said proudly. You. There was a trace of disdain in the female giant's eyes. You don't want to listen when I talk to you nicely? Do you really want this brother to do it? The wolf cub said angrily. Go, immediately go. The female giant's body trembled and hurriedly brought the wolf cub and flew in the direction of Madman and the others. Let's see where you can escape to. At the same time, that blood-eyed giant at the perfection 9 heavens realm stared at Blood Eagle's father and Madman with a ferocious expression. Hurry up, Blood Eagle's father urged. Don't rush me. The more you rush me, the more I can't think of a way. Madman said. Can I not rush you? If you don't hurry up, we will all die. Blood Eagle's father roared. Don't rush. Madman waved his hand, his mind working quickly, but he couldn't think of the best way. Haha. Little Madman, it's really you. Suddenly, a loud laugh sounded. This voice. Madman's expression stiffened, and he immediately turned his head to look in the direction of the voice. only to see a female giant flying through the air. Immediately, Madman was taken aback. Why was it the blood demon race? When Blood Eagle's father saw the female giant, his expression changed, and he used all his strength to frantically escape. Quickly stop them. The blood-eyed giant who was chasing after Blood Eagle's father, and Madman immediately shouted when he saw the female giant. However, the female giant was incomparably panicked. What are you afraid of? This brother is here. The wolf cub on the shoulder of the female giant waved its little paw at Madman. Madman looked again, and his face was instantly filled with joy. He immediately said to Blood Eagle's father, "Don't run, quickly go over." Blood Eagle's father finally saw the wolf cub, and there was a trace of surprise in his eyes. What was going on? A wolf was actually lying on the shoulder of a blood demon? And looking at the eyes of the wolf cub, it was not a creature of the Nether King Hell, because the eyes of the creatures of the Nether King Hell were blood red. Haha! I finally met an acquaintance. After meeting up, the wolf cub jumped onto Madman's head and said excitedly, "That's right. This was the white-eyed wolf. And the female giant was the blood demon that it had met on the day it entered the Nether King Hell." Obviously, this female giant was forced to stay by its side. Madman was also overjoyed. All these years, he had been staying in the canyon with Yizhong and the others, and he was almost bored to death. So now that he saw the white-eyed wolf, he was particularly fond of him. The white-eyed wolf asked, "Have you seen little Qinzi?" "I really want to ask you that too," Madman said. "You didn't see it, and I didn't expect it either. Where did this little Qinzi go to have fun?" The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows. "Have fun?" Madman was speechless. This word was really well used. Chapter 2605. At the same time, after the white-eyed wolf left her shoulder, the female giant seemed to be relieved of a burden. Immediately after, she took the opportunity to escape and flew towards the peaked ninth heaven realm blood-eyed giant. "What are you doing? You're actually following an outsider," the blood-eyed giant shouted. The female giant hurriedly said, "I was forced." "Forced? It's just a half-step ninth heaven realm. How could it force you?" The blood-eyed giant frowned. "Although it's only a half-step ninth heaven realm, it's extremely strong." The female giant felt wronged. For the past 100 years, she had been ordered around by the white-eyed wolf like a little follower. In terms of hatred, she really hated it to the core. Extremely strong? The blood-eyed giant looked at the white-eyed wolf. The madman looked at the blood-eyed giant and said in a low voice, "Wolf cub, let's run." "Run." The white-eyed wolf waved his paws and said proudly, "In my dictionary, there's no such word as running." The madman looked at the white-eyed wolf in astonishment. He was so confident. "However, let's run. After all, we're near the ancient city of Qingyu." The white-eyed wolf changed the topic and said, "Bastard." The madman rolled his eyes and shouted at the blood-eyed giant. "Quick!" The blood-eyed giant immediately turned on his escape mode. "Chase!" The blood-eyed giant shouted and chased after the madman with the female giant. "Little Zhuer, we've been together for so long. You don't have to be so heartless." The white-eyed wolf turned to the female giant and said sadly, "Shut up." The female giant roared, "Little pig." The madman was stunned. "Not little pig, little Zhuer. Bamboo as in bamboo. Her name is Blood Bamboo, so I call her little Zhuer." The white-eyed wolf explained. "So that's how it is." The madman suddenly understood. However, Shuezhu was so big. Was it appropriate to call her little Zhuer? Blood Eagle's father roared, "Hey, can you guys not talk about these irrelevant topics at this time?" Cough cough. Madman coughed dryly with an awkward expression. The white-eyed wolf glanced at the Blood Eagle's father and looked at Madman suspiciously. Where did this little eagle come from? Also, why did you come to the ancient city of Qingyu? Little eagle. Blood Eagle's father couldn't help but feel angry. How is it small? It's like this. The madman briefly explained the plan of Yizhong and the others. I see. Then it's easy to solve. The white-eyed wolf laughed. How do we solve this? Madman was taken aback and hurriedly asked. Actually, I've been here for a long time. I also wanted to enter the ancient city of Qingyu to take a look, but I couldn't find a suitable opportunity. Now that you're here, there's a chance. Let's just barge in. The white-eyed wolf snickered. What? Break in? Blood Eagle's father was shocked. What was this wolf cub up to? Was the ancient city of King Yu a place where they could barge in? Break in? Madman pondered for a moment and asked. Blood Eagle, do you trust us? No. Blood Eagle's father shook his head. Heh. You don't have a choice now. The white-eyed wolf snickered. Have I boarded a pirate ship? Blood Eagle's father was infuriated. Yes. You have boarded a pirate ship. The white-eyed wolf snickered. Don't listen to his nonsense. If you bring us in, I promise to let you come out alive. In fact, you might even be rewarded by the ancient king. Madman laughed. This? Blood Eagle's father was hesitant. You're so wishy-washy. To think that you're a father. If your child knows that you're so timid, I'm afraid his impression of you will plummet. The white-eyed wolf despised him. Who said that I'm timid? Let's go then. Who's afraid of who? Blood Eagle's father said furiously. He flapped his wings and circled around the mountain range before heading straight for the ancient King Yu city. Damn it! How dare you trespass into the ancient King Yu city? The crimson-eyed giant was furious. The female giant, Shuezhu, looked at Madman and the white-eyed wolf in disbelief. These guys were too daring. They even dared to trespass into the capital. Blood Eagle? Human? Wolf? They actually trespassed into the ancient King Yu city? Who gave them the guts? Blood Eagle, stop right there. You're really daring. How dare you bring outsiders and trespass into the ancient King Yu city? The blood demons in the city soon discovered Madman and the others. All of them rushed into the sky to intercept them. Madman scanned the ancient King Yu city. It was too big. Even if they flew into the sky, they couldn't see the entire city. Moreover, the blood demons here were abnormally powerful. Just the blood demons that appeared now had a few hundred perfected ninth heaven's realm. King Yu, I have something to tell you. Quickly come out and see me. All of a sudden Madman roared. His voice was like a bell that reverberated in all directions. He wants to see King Yu? That's not right. He's just a human. Why would he want to see King Yu? The blood demons were bewildered. Presumptuous, presumptuous. Everyone quickly kill him. The perfected ninth heaven's realm crimson-eyed giant chased into the ancient city and roared in exasperation. Kill. Immediately, the blood demons that were intercepting them pounced towards Madman and the others. I told you not to come in. You just didn't listen. Look at what happened now. Blood Eagle roared. The blood demons were all around them. There was nowhere to escape. Stop. But right at this moment, a loud voice sounded from a palace in the middle of the city. King Yu. The blood demons were shocked. They quickly stopped and bowed towards the palace from afar. Bring them to see me. The voice sounded again. Yes. The perfected ninth heaven's realm crimson-eyed giant responded respectfully. Madman, white-eyed wolf, and Blood Eagle's father finally heaved a sigh of relief. Let's go. The crimson-eyed giant flew in front of Blood Eagle and said expressionlessly while looking at Madman and white-eyed wolf. After speaking, he flew towards the palace. Blood Eagle's father said carefully, I won't go. After all, I'm just a guide. None of you are allowed to run. All of you have to go. The crimson-eyed giant shouted without even turning his head. Blood Eagle's father's gaze trembled. He could only bring Madman and white-eyed wolf and fly towards the palace. After a few hundred breaths, they landed in front of the palace. One had to know. Blood Eagle was the one flying the entire time. Blood Eagle was at the perfected ninth heaven's realm. Even he needed to fly for a few hundred breaths to arrive. If it was Madman, he would need at least an hour. One had to admit that the ancient city of King Yu was extraordinarily big. King Yu, they have arrived. The palace towered into the clouds. In front of the palace, there was a giant plaza. That crimson-eyed giant looked at the tightly shut palace door and said respectfully, Rumble. After saying that, the door slowly opened. However, it didn't open completely. It only opened a gap that was 2 meters wide. Yes, for the palace door. A gap that was 2 meters wide could only be considered a gap, because this door was a few hundred meters wide. Go in. The crimson-eyed giant looked at Madman, white-eyed wolf, and Blood Eagle's father and shouted. Madman and white-eyed wolf jumped down from Blood Eagle's back and went straight into the palace. Blood Eagle also shrunk his body and followed behind Madman and White-Eyed Wolf anxiously. As for that crimson-eyed giant, he didn't enter and stood guard outside. The layout of the palace was rather simple. There were dozens of stone chairs on both sides. Each stone chair was 100 meters wide and looked like a small mountain. Even when standing below the stone chairs, Madman and White-Eyed Wolf couldn't help but feel small. The space within the palace was naturally very big. The height was about 500 to 600 meters. Right in front, a crimson-eyed giant that was 100 meters tall sat on the throne and emitted a powerful aura. "You guys are the ones who want to see me?" King Yu examined Madman and White-Eyed Wolf for a moment before speaking indifferently. He even deliberately lowered his voice. However, when it landed in Madman and White-Eyed Wolf's ears, it was still as deafening as thunder. "That's right." Madman nodded. "What's the matter?" King Yu asked. "The dragons came up with a plan. After daybreak, they will come to the ancient city of King Yu to snatch that heaven-defying artifact." Madman said. "The dragons?" King Yu's eyes flickered with cold light. "Your blood demon race isn't very nice. I came here with good intentions to inform you guys, but you guys actually want to kill me." Madman snorted. King Yu said indifferently, "There's nothing we can do. Who asked you to be a human? In our eyes, humans are as annoying as dragons." "I don't understand. Have humans come to the Nether King's hell before?" "I don't think so. Only dragons. This is the first time humans have come here. Your blood demon race is already so prejudiced against us. Is this fair?" Madman raised his brows. "Who said that this is the first time humans have come here? Although there hasn't been a large-scale appearance in the past, there will always be a human entering the Nether King's hell every time. Moreover, this human is even more difficult to deal with than the ancestral dragon." King Yu snorted coldly, his eyes filled with disgust. "Who?" Madman was curious. "I think his name is..." "Right. His name is Yizhong," King Yu said. King Yu said. "So it's this old man." Madman and White-Eyed Wolf nodded in realization. "Do you guys know him?" King Yu frowned. "Quite familiar. All these years, I have been staying with Yizhong and the rest." Madman said. Bang! Upon hearing this, King Yu instantly released a terrifying aura. "Don't misunderstand. Yizhong is a member of the dragons. He has nothing to do with us humans. You might not know this, but in the outside world, we humans and the dragons are at odds with each other." Madman hurriedly explained. "At odds with each other?" King Yu was stunned for a moment before saying, "In that case, you humans are borrowing the power of the blood demon race to get rid of Yizhong and the dragons." "That's indeed the intention. But this time, my biggest purpose of leaking information is to destroy their chances. Because if they obtain the heaven-defying divine artifact, it won't be a good thing for us humans either." Madman said. King Yu pondered for a moment before looking at Madman and saying, "This is just your one-sided story. How can I believe you? It's almost daybreak. It won't be long before you know whether it's true or not. Why don't you believe me this time?" Madman smiled. King Yu looked at Madman, nodded and said, "All right, I will believe you for the time being. Moreover, if it's confirmed in the end that what you said is true, I will give each of you a thank you gift." "I'll thank you in advance then." Madman chuckled. The thank you gift from the blood demon race should be extraordinary. Chapter 2606. Thank you. Blood Eagle couldn't help but reveal excitement in his eyes as he transmitted his voice. "Human, are you sure there is such a thing?" "Of course. Just wait to receive the gift," Madman secretly said. Blood Eagle was instantly overjoyed. It seemed that this risk was worth it. "I'll tell you the details of their plan now. But you have to promise me. At that time, your blood demon race can't act as if I know your plan. Because if you can't kill them, I still have to get along with them. I don't want to be suspected by them." Madman said. Ghost King said, "Don't worry, my blood demon race still has this bit of common sense." "All right." Madman nodded and told him the dragon's plan. "These bastards. Over the years, they have already snatched 10 heaven-defying divine artifacts from the Nether King's hell. But they are still not satisfied." Ghost King was furious. "What? 10? Madman and White-Eyed Wolf were taken aback. "That's right." Ghost King nodded. Madman asked. Is it the sunset divine bow and other heaven-defying divine artifacts? You know, Ghost King was surprised. Madman and White-Eyed Wolf looked at each other and smiled. Madman nodded and said, Of course we know, because these 10 heaven-defying divine artifacts are in our hands now. What? Ghost King suddenly stood up and looked at them in surprise. Madman said, A lot of things have happened in the past few years, and the dragon's current strength is far inferior to before. Can you let me take a look at these divine artifacts? Ghost King asked. No. Madman shook his head. Why? Ghost King frowned. Firstly, in the Nether King's hell, we can't use the heaven-defying divine artifacts. Secondly, these heaven-defying divine artifacts are also with us, in the hands of a friend of ours. Madman said. Friend? Ghost King was suspicious. That's right. He is also in the Nether King's hell now. His name is Qin Feiyang, and he is the dragon's #1 enemy. He is the one who snatched the sunset divine bow and other heaven-defying divine artifacts from the dragons. Madman said, #1 enemy? The Ghost King was slightly taken aback, and he asked, Then his cultivation must be very strong. You're wrong about that. His cultivation is even lower than ours. The White-Eyed Wolf snickered. Worse than you. The Ghost King was astonished. How could such a person become the dragon's #1 enemy? Although Qin Feiyang's cultivation is not as high as ours, his methods are extremely terrifying. Let me put it this way. The ancestral dragons of the dragon race have all suffered greatly at his hands. If the ancestral dragons had split their divine souls in advance, they would have died in Qin Feiyang's hands. Madman laughed. So powerful? King Yu was shocked. Yes. However, in the Underworld King's hell, he is unable to use many of his techniques. If you were to encounter him, I hope that you would be able to take care of him for me. Madman pleaded. If we have the chance to meet, I will take care of you. But the premise is that you didn't lie to me. The Ghost King said. Didn't I say earlier that we will see the results in the morning? All right. I have already told you about the dragon's plan. As for the rest, you can do as you deem fit. I have to rush back now lest they become suspicious. Madman said. No. Before we get confirmation, you are not allowed to leave. The Ghost King shook his head. Why? Madman frowned. What if this is your trick? Therefore you have to stay. After the confirmation, if you want to leave, I will definitely not stop you. The Ghost King said. I really can't. I used the evil moon as a disguise to sneak out. If the evil moon disappears at dawn, and they don't see me, they will definitely become suspicious. These people are all cunning old foxes. Once they become suspicious, they might change their plans. Madman was somewhat anxious. What did you say? You used the evil moon as a disguise. What do you mean? The Ghost King looked at him puzzled. Madman said, It means entering the evil moon. Entering the evil moon. The Ghost King's eyes suddenly widened. Beside him, Blood Eagle also looked at Madman in surprise. Was he talking in his sleep? Yes, is there a problem? Madman looked at them suspiciously. The Ghost King asked, Are you joking? You can enter the evil moon? No. Madman shook his head. The White-Eyed Wolf also asked, Little Madman, are you sure? Nonsense. Madman glared at it. TSK. Amazing. I thought that I was the only one in this world who could enter the evil moon. The White-Eyed Wolf exclaimed. What? You can also enter the evil moon? Madman was shocked as well. The Ghost King and Blood Eagle looked at the White-Eyed Wolf, their eyes filled with disbelief. What exactly was going on? All of them could enter the evil moon. One had to know. Even the blood demons could only summon the power of the evil moon, but could not enter. It's just an evil moon. What's the big deal? The White-Eyed Wolf pinched its nose. The Ghost King was speechless. It was just an evil moon. This was too arrogant. Madman sized up the White-Eyed Wolf and said with a frown. Then do you know what's inside the evil moon? The White-Eyed Wolf said, A broken bead. You really know? Madman was stunned. Do you think I'm joking with you? The White-Eyed Wolf rolled its eyes at him. Madman hurriedly asked, Then can you touch the blood bead? No. The White-Eyed Wolf shook its head. Madman said, I touched the blood bead. Really? The White-Eyed Wolf was surprised. Yes. But it was only for an instant. After that, I couldn't touch it anymore. But the moment I touched it, an image appeared in my mind. Madman said. What image? The white-eyed wolf was curious. Madman said. A 100,000 feet tall giant and a 100,000 feet long giant dragon were fighting. Giant dragon. Madman and the white-eyed wolf didn't notice that Ghost King's gaze trembled slightly when he heard this. Giant dragon. The white-eyed wolf was surprised. But unfortunately, I didn't see their faces clearly. But I faintly noticed that the giant seemed to be. Madman glanced at Ghost King and said, It seemed to be your blood demon race. Hearing this, King Yu lowered his head and remained silent. Ghost King, there's one more thing. Blood Eagle suddenly looked at Ghost King and said, What is it? Ghost King looked at Blood Eagle suspiciously. Blood Eagle pointed at Madman and said, The divine power in his body is evil. What? Evil? Ghost King's eyes widened as he stared at Madman in surprise. It can't be. Let me take a look. The white-eyed wolf was also surprised. Why did Madman's aura feel different from before? Madman released his divine power. It's indeed evil. Ghost King stood up and stared at the divine power released by Madman. His eyes were filled with shock. A human actually grasped the power of evil? Little Madman, when did your divine power become like this? It wasn't like this in the past. The white-eyed wolf was doubtful. Just before coming to Ghost King Ancient City, I entered the moon of evil. Then my divine power changed. And because of the change in my divine power, I broke through to perfect Paragon God. Madman said. Actually, he was also full of doubts. This is really strange. I also entered it before, but why didn't there be such a change? The white-eyed wolf frowned. You still want such a change? I don't even know if this change is good or bad. Madman was speechless. I feel that it's quite fun. The white-eyed wolf chuckled. Fun? Madman was completely speechless. He looked at Ghost King and said, How about this? If you're still worried, I'll let the white-eyed wolf stay in Ghost King Ancient City. He's my best brother. Damn you. You actually want me to be your hostage? The white-eyed wolf instantly glared at Madman. Madman smiled and said, Don't you want to come to Ghost King Ancient City? This is an opportunity. The white-eyed wolf rolled his eyes and looked at Ghost King, saying, Fine, I'll stay here as a hostage. Ghost King looked at Madman and the white-eyed wolf. His eyes flickered before he finally nodded and said, All right, let this wolf cub stay. Madman said meaningfully. Then Ghost King, you have to be careful. This white-eyed wolf isn't someone easy to deal with. What do you mean? Ghost King was stunned. Madman said, It means, cough cough. The white-eyed wolf instantly coughed and interrupted Madman's words. He said angrily, Little Madman, what are you saying? Are you looking for a beating? Haha. Madman laughed and looked at Ghost King, saying, You can slowly understand the meaning behind this. After saying that, he turned to Blood Eagle and said with a smile, Let's go. Blood Eagle was stunned and asked softly, What about our thank you gift? You are really a money grubber. Madman was speechless and said with a voice transmission, Don't be anxious. There will be one sooner or later. All right. Blood Eagle nodded and turned to fly out. Then let's meet again. Madman looked at Ghost King again and cupped his hands with a smile. Take care. I won't send you off. Ghost King nodded. Little Madman, let's meet again if fate wills it. The white-eyed wolf also waved his little paw. Madman shook his head and smiled. He turned and walked out in large strides, and then jumped onto Blood Eagle's back. Blood Eagle immediately carried Madman and broke through the sky with lightning speed. That blood-eyed giant walked to the crack of the door and looked at Ghost King, saying, My lord, you are letting them go just like that? Ghost King glanced at the white-eyed wolf and said indifferently, Isn't there still a hostage here? What are you afraid of? The blood-eyed giant looked at the white-eyed wolf and wanted to say something but stopped. Enough. Immediately inform the 10 commanders to come over. This king has something important to discuss with them. Ghost King said. Yes. The blood-eyed giant responded respectfully and turned to leave. Ghost King returned to the stone chair and lowered his head, sizing up the white-eyed wolf curiously. Dazzling golden fur, golden eyes. There were also 2 small golden wings on his back. In between his eyebrows, there was actually a blood-colored mark that looked like a phoenix's wings. Was this really a wolf? Why would a wolf look so strange? Can you not look at me like that? I will be shy. The white-eyed wolf's eyes darted around. No one knew what he was thinking. Shy. Ghost King's mouth twitched. From now on, without my orders, you are not allowed to leave the ancient city of Ghost King without permission. Don't worry. Even if you chase me away now, I will not leave. The white-eyed wolf grinned. What a joke. It was not easy to enter the ancient city of Ghost King. How could he bear to leave? Ghost King looked at the white-eyed wolf and couldn't help but frown slightly. Why did he have a bad premonition in his heart? Chapter 2607. A few hours later, Blood Eagle's father brought Madman back to the place where they first met. Human kid. That little eagle began to greet them from afar. The corner of Madman's mouth twitched. He looked at Blood Eagle's father and said, "This child of yours, is he naturally familiar with others?" He's just not scheming. That, brother Madman, we have offended you earlier. I hope you can forgive us. Blood Eagle's father apologized. It's fine. After all, we are outsiders. It's understandable that you are on guard against us. Madman said, humans had to be reasonable, because if it was him, he would also be like Blood Eagle's family. Thank you, Blood Eagle's father said gratefully, and brought Madman to the peak of the mountain. How is it? Blood Eagle's mother asked. No problem. Blood Eagle's father smiled. That's good. Blood Eagle's mother heaved a sigh of relief and looked at Madman. I'm sorry. It's fine. Madman waved his hand. Since he's fine, can I play with him? Little Eagle looked at his parents and asked. Play. Blood Eagle's parents were stunned. Madman also had a look of astonishment. I'm really curious about you. A human actually has evil power. So, I've decided to study you properly. Little Eagle sized up Madman as if he had found a fun toy and chuckled. Study me? Madman was speechless. Cough cough. Don't be rude. Blood Eagle's parents scolded. Little Eagle said, Father, Mother, aren't you curious? Blood Eagle's parents looked at each other. To be honest, they were also very curious, but they knew what to ask and what not to ask. Little thing, I don't have time to play with you now. When there's a chance, you can slowly study me. Madman chuckled and disappeared into the night sky like a bolt of lightning. Human, Little Eagle called out. Enough. You have no manners at all. This human isn't an ordinary person. It's better not to provoke him. Blood Eagle's father berated. Not an ordinary person? The little eagle was stunned. Blood Eagle's father looked up at Evil Moon and said seriously, he can go in there. Enter that place. Blood Eagle's mother also looked up with a trace of disbelief in her eyes. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon glanced at the Evil Moon and smiled. Like the moon outside. Not bad. The Evil Moon would move on its own. Smiled. When Madman rushed back to the Dragon Mountain range, your aura has become a little different from before. Had already left Black the sky Dragon Ancestral Dragon looked at Madman suspiciously. Restraining his aura. Different. Madman entered the clouds and the others also opened their eyes and sized up Madman. And the others still had their eyes closed as they adjusted their mental states. It might be related to my god power. And flew down into the canyon with a smile. What do you mean? Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon was puzzled. Lunatic's aura. Master looked and opened his eyes to look at him. A strand of god power. Madman landed in the canyon. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon's pupil shrank. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon were also shocked. Madman was actually the Evil Moon. The Evil Moon is about to set. And it was extremely pure Evil Moon. How could this be? His god power had turned into Evil Moon? Are you okay? Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon was concerned. I'm fine. Madman shook his head. Are you sure you're fine? Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon spoke again. His god power had turned into Evil Moon. How could he be fine? I'm really fine. Madman said. Then your god power? Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon was surprised. I'm also quite puzzled. When I entered the Evil Moon crazily poured into my body. I thought I might die. However, I didn't expect that the Evil Moon not only helped me break through to perfection Supreme God, but it also assimilated my god power. The most important thing is that I don't feel any discomfort. Madman said in distress. No way. What kind of freak are you? If we didn't know your background, we would suspect that you are a creature from hell. Yizhong said. Know my background? Madman couldn't help but sneer in his heart. Do you really know my background? On the surface, Madman smiled bitterly and said, if I were a creature from hell, how could I be outside? Alright, don't think so much. We're just saying. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon looked up at the evil moon, then looked at Yi Zhong and the others and said, it's almost dawn. Why don't we set off? Okay. Yi Zhong nodded. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon looked at Madman and said, kid, just stay here and don't run around. Wait for us to come back. Madman frowned and said, I really can't go. You can't go. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon shook his head. Madman's face was full of displeasure as he muttered, I also want to see the world. Why are you in a hurry to see the world? When you become stronger, there will be plenty of opportunities. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon glared at Madman and shouted, let's go. Swoosh. The group immediately soared into the sky and flew away like lightning. When they were far away from the canyon, Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon slowed down and turned to look at the canyon. He frowned and said, do you think Madman's change is good or bad? Yi Zhong pondered for a moment and said, in the long run it's a good thing. A good thing. The Chief Pavilion Master, the strange young man, and the other ancestral dragons looked at Yi Zhong suspiciously. Think about it. Now that even Madman's god power has become evil moon power, won't it be easier for us to enter Fallen Valley in the future? Yi Zhong said. Makes sense. Everyone nodded. The only thing I can't figure out is why he can absorb evil moon power. Even his god power has become evil moon power. To be honest, if I didn't already know him, I would have suspected that he's a native of hell. Yi Zhong shook his head. How did you know him? Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon asked. When he entered the Dragon God Temple. At that time there was someone called Hong Yi. This enforcer Hong Yi brought Madman to the Dragon God Temple and wanted to go in through the back door. I asked him a few questions and saw that he was quite interested in the Dragon God Temple, so I agreed to let him in. But I didn't expect Madman to be with Li Bu-er in the end, and I also underestimated him. I didn't expect him to have a divine art. Li Bu-er is the same. At first, everyone's attention was on the overlords around him, and didn't pay attention to him at all. They thought he was just a rich man's son. But as things happened one after another, everyone realized that he was actually very capable. Yi Zhong said. The blood-red shirt youth said, did these two know each other before? I'm not sure. There's no need to care about such a small matter. As long as they're loyal to the dragons. Yi Zhong shook his head. That's right. What we dragons need is loyalty. No matter what, I must firmly control this madman in my hands. Not only because we need him to take us to Fallen Valley now, but also because we need him to lead the dragons to hell in the future to search for treasures. Ancestral Dragon Black said. Let us dragons. The ancestral dragons raised their eyebrows. It's because his cultivation is too weak now that he can't help us. Once his cultivation breaks through to the 9th heaven stage, he'll even be indestructible. At that time, with the advantage of being able to absorb the evil power, he'll be able to do whatever he wants in hell. In such a situation, he'll naturally be the one to lead us. Ancestral Dragon Black smiled. That makes sense. The other ancestral dragons nodded. Yi Zhong added. And most importantly, this madman might be the nemesis of the blood demons. Nemesis? Everyone was stunned. Have you ever thought that since madman can absorb the power of the evil moon, can he also absorb the power of the evil sun? Yi Zhong said. That's right. Everyone slapped their heads. The evil moon and the evil sun were both formed by the power of evil. Since he could absorb the power of the evil moon, he could definitely absorb the power of the evil sun. Why is the blood demon so powerful? Isn't it because they can summon the power of the evil moon and the evil sun? And in the face of such power, nothing can stop it. But if madman can absorb the power of the evil moon, can't he also absorb the power summoned by the blood demons? Without the healing power of these powers, the combat strength of the blood demons will drop by half. Yi Zhong said. That's right. We've already experienced this. When the blood demons summon the power of the evil sun and the evil sun, nothing can interrupt it. Even if they use their body to block it, these powers can still pass through and integrate into the body of the blood demons. But I believe that Madman will definitely be able to absorb this power when the blood demon race summons it. Ancestral Dragon Black said. In other words, in front of Madman, the blood demons can't summon the power of the evil sun and the evil moon to heal their injuries? The woman in white asked. That's what I mean. Ancestral Dragon Black nodded. Then this is indeed the nemesis of the blood demons. The woman in white nodded. However, the chief pavilion master raised her eyebrows. Although she didn't know where Madman came from, she knew who Li Buer was. Li Buer was Qin Feiyang. Since he was with Qin Feiyang, Madman must be a threat. It seemed that this time, not only did she have to get rid of Qin Feiyang, but she also had to get rid of Madman. Otherwise, with the appreciation of the ancestral dragons for Madman, he would definitely have amazing achievements in Divine Land in the future. At that time, he would naturally become a great enemy of her and the Beast Lord. Chapter 2608. Just as Yi Zhong and the rest were rushing to the ancient city and discussing Lunatic's situation, Lunatic was standing in the canyon with his head lowered. He seemed to be in deep thought. No, I still have to take a look personally. A moment later, Lunatic muttered and flew out of the canyon at lightning speed, heading towards where the Blood Eagle family was. Time flew by. The sky started to brighten. The evil sun rose. The ancient city was no different from before. It was bustling and lively. However, this was only on the surface. In fact, there were undercurrents. Outside the city, there was a mountain range thousands of miles away. At a high point of the mountain range, Yi Zhong and the rest stood side by side, looking at the ancient city. It's huge, the chief pavilion master exclaimed. Because she was the same as Qin Feiyang and the others, it was also her first time coming to Hell. She wasn't as familiar with everything here as Yi Zhong and the ancestral dragons. This is the capital of the blood demon race. Wait a moment. Don't fight. Leave immediately after snatching the heaven-defying divine artifact. Yi Zhong reminded. Got it. Everyone nodded. The chief pavilion master frowned. Wait a minute. The ancient city is so huge. Where are we going to find the heaven-defying divine artifact? Ancestral Dragon and Yi Zhong looked at each other and smiled. When I came to the ancient city with Yi Zhong last time, I already investigated. Ancestral Dragon smiled. That's right. Back then, we captured a blood demon at the Peak Nine Heavens realm. He told us that the heaven-defying divine artifact is in the palace in the middle of the ancient city. Yi Zhong nodded. The chief pavilion master smiled. That's easy. We will follow the original plan. Ancestral Dragon looked up at the sky. The evil moon had already set, and the evil sun had completely risen. Success or failure depends on this. Everyone be careful. Let's move. As Ancestral Dragon's voice fell, Yi Zhong, the chief pavilion master, and the unfamiliar young man immediately soared into the sky and flew towards the ancient city. Let's hurry to the ancient city too, Ancestral Dragon said. The young man in blood-red clothes and the rest nodded. The 9 ancestral dragons immediately concealed their auras and headed towards the ancient city. It has finally begun. Not far away, an even taller mountain, a black-clothed youth stood at the peak of the mountain. There was also a palm-sized blood eagle on the young man's shoulder. This man and eagle had restrained their auras to the extreme and had been paying attention to Yi Zhong and the others. That was right. They were Madman and Blood Eagle's fathers. Shui Ying's father sneered. These people are courting death. Madman smiled. Who cares if they're courting death or what? Your gift can't run away. Hee. I'm really looking forward to the blood demon race's gift of thanks. Blood Eagle's father smirked. Back to Yi Zhong and the other two. At this moment, they were already outside the city, only one step away from the plains. Boom. Right at this moment, the aura of the three exploded. The crimson-eyed giant that was guarding the plains was immediately startled, and it hurriedly opened its eyes. Whoosh! 3 figures flew into the plains. It's you, Yi Zhong. The blood-eyed giant suddenly stood up, its large eyes filled with rage. In fact, he already knew that Yi Zhong would come. Because at that time, when Madman told King Yu about the dragon's plan, He was outside and heard it clearly. His current reaction was purely to cooperate with the act. However, he was also a little surprised. He didn't expect these people to really dare to come. You can recognize my identity at a glance. It seems that I still have some weight in the eyes of your blood demon race. Yi Zhong laughed hoarsely, and without any delay, he slapped towards the blood-eyed giant. Humph! The blood-eyed giant snorted coldly and retreated like lightning, roaring. The dragons are invading. The entire city is on alert. What? The dragons are invading? These damn bastards. Every time they come to the Nether King's hell, they have to come to the Nether King's ancient city to make trouble. There was an uproar in the city. Yi Zhong, you still dare to come? At the same time, an angry roar sounded. Following closely, 10 huge figures rushed out from the center of the city. It was 10 giants. Each of them was 90 meters tall. And there were both men and women. Their aura was extremely terrifying. The chief pavilion master was shocked. They are the 10 commanders of the ancient city of the Nether King? That's right. Although they are very big, their names are easy to remember. The first commander is called Shweta. The second commander is Shwe-er. And so on. The 10th commander is Shwesher. Yi Zhong nodded. These names. The chief pavilion master couldn't help but laugh. Names don't mean anything. Don't underestimate them. Every single one of them is no weaker than us. Yi Zhong said in a low voice. Whoosh! The 10 commanders rushed to the top of the city wall and stared at Yi Zhong and the other two. Their eyes flashed fiercely. Long time no see. Yi Zhong waved and smiled. Humph! Shweta snorted and shouted. You old bastard! What are you doing in the ancient city of the Nether King? He was a burly man. He was 90 meters tall and looked extremely strong. One could feel a strong sense of oppression from afar. I miss you, old friends, so I specially came to visit you. Why? Am I not welcome? Yi Zhong asked with a smile. Haha, old friends. Old bastard, don't think that we don't know. You must be scheming something again. Let me tell you, no matter what you are scheming, don't think that you will succeed this time. Where are the dragons and the other bastards? Since you are here, they must be here too. Ask them to come out. I am itching to spar with you, Shweta said domineeringly. Sorry, only the 3 of us are here this time. But since you want to spar, I can accompany you. Yi Zhong chuckled. All right, come on then. Shweta took a step forward. A terrifying aura instantly pounced towards Yi Zhong and the other 2. The way the blood demon tribe treats their guests really pisses me off. Yi Zhong shook his head. Are you considered a guest? Shweta threw a punch at Yi Zhong. Yi Zhong did not dodge and countered with a punch. Rumble. 2 fists, one big and one small, collided. A destructive aura instantly spread out in all directions with this place as the center. Shwe-er and the rest waved their hands. Divine power emerged and condensed into a divine shield in front of the ancient city of Qingyu to block the aura. This was because if this aura entered the ancient city of Qingyu, it would definitely affect their tribesmen. Pfft! Yi Zhong spurted a mouthful of blood, and his body kept retreating. He looked at Shweta again, and saw that he was standing in mid-air without moving. He is indeed powerful. The chief pavilion master muttered. What is this? The transformed blood demon tribe, especially King Yu and the 10 commanders, are so powerful that even we can only be killed. The unfamiliar young man said softly. The chief pavilion master's pupils constricted. Although the blood demon tribe could not enter the imperishable realm, due to the rules of the Nether King's hell, the blood demon tribe had the ability to kill imperishable realm experts like them. Yi Zhong stabilized his body and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He looked at Shweta and laughed. It has been many years since we last met. You have become much more powerful. You old bastard, you should have improved a lot. It is a pity. No matter how powerful you are, you have to suppress your cultivation level in the Nether King's hell. As for your physical body, although your physical body is in the imperishable realm, my physical body shouldn't be inferior to yours. Shweta sneered. Haha, are you trying to kill me? Then come with me. I don't want our battle to hurt your innocent tribe leaders. Yi Zhong laughed. He turned around and led the chief pavilion master and the unfamiliar young man into the mountains without looking back. Today, I will kill all of you even if I have to go to heaven or hell. Shweta shouted. The 10 commanders immediately sped up and chased after Yi Zhong and the other two. Very soon, both parties disappeared into the depths of the mountains. What is going on? Don't the 10 commanders know that Yi Zhong and the other two are just bait? Why did they chase after them? Shuang was suspicious. I am also puzzled. The lunatic frowned. After the 10 commanders left the ancient city, the King Yu was the only one who could threaten the ancestral dragons. In other words, the King Yu had to face the 9 ancestral dragons alone. No matter how powerful the King Yu was, it was impossible for him to stop them, unless he transformed. However, it was daytime now, and the King Yu could not transform. Yi Zhong is too much. I wonder what is his motive for coming to the ancient city this time. Wait a minute. Don't tell me he knows that there is a heaven-defying divine artifact in the ancient city. I knew it. This old thing is not at ease. He must be here for this heaven-defying divine artifact. The blood demons in the city were in a heated discussion. On a certain street, a small golden wolf cub strolled around leisurely, not feeling nervous at all. That was right. It was the white-eyed wolf. Yi Zhong, dragons. This has nothing to do with me. I am only concerned about the treasures in the ancient city. But until now, I have not found any valuable treasures. The white-eyed wolf mumbled. A heaven-defying divine artifact? Hearing everyone talking about the heaven-defying divine artifact, the white-eyed wolf pricked up its ears. This heaven-defying divine artifact was the white-eyed wolf's main target. However, it did not dare to ask the King Yu directly, because if it did, the King Yu would know that it was up to no good. He might chase it out directly. It was not worth it. Therefore, after the lunatic left, it had been pondering where this heaven-defying divine artifact could be hidden. At this very moment, hearing everyone talking about this divine artifact, it immediately had an idea. Perhaps these blood demons would spill the beans. It was a pity. After listening for a long time, it did not hear anyone mention the hiding place of the heaven-defying divine artifact. Hey, wolf cub, don't run around. A female giant looked around and searched everywhere. When she saw the white-eyed wolf, she immediately chased after it. Little Zhuer, the white-eyed wolf was stunned. It turned to look at the female giant, and immediately turned to run. This woman, why is she haunting me like a ghost? Actually, it was not Blood Bamboo's fault. Because it was the King Yu's order, it had to keep a close eye on the white-eyed wolf. The King Yu did not feel at ease, because the lunatic's words before he left were obviously to guard against the white-eyed wolf. Even the lunatic, who was his companion, hinted at him to guard against the white-eyed wolf. Then this wolf cub was definitely not a good person. It had to be watched at this moment to be at ease. Don't run around. You will be scolded by the King Yu later. Blood Bamboo was also extremely angry. This wolf cub was like a loach. It would disappear without a trace if it was not careful. Chapter 2609. Yi Zhong and the other two and the 10 commanders were already far away. They could only vaguely sense their auras. The blood demon race in the ancient city gradually calmed down. In fact, the other blood demons in the ancient city did not know about the dragon's plan. Therefore, seeing that Yi Zhong and the other two had left, they felt more at ease. They were not worried about the safety of the 10 commanders. This was because they knew the abilities of the 10 commanders very well. Yi Zhong and the other two were not a match for the 10 commanders. However, King Yu and the blood-eyed giant in the city of the Beast Emperor were very clear that the various ancestral dragons were definitely hiding outside. Of course, the white-eyed wolf knew that too. However, it did not take it to heart at all. Since the blood demon race already knew about the dragon's plan, they must be fully prepared. There was no need for it to worry at all. What it had to do was to quickly find the heaven-defying divine weapon and leave with it. Time passed slowly. About 500 to 600 breaths passed. Right then they could no longer sense the auras of Yi Zhong and the other two and the 10 commanders. Bang! Right at this moment, 9 terrifying auras erupted like volcanoes. The 9 ancestral dragons who were hiding outside the city finally took action. They were in the ancient city of the King Yu and could not sense the battle fluctuations of the 10 commanders and Yi Zhong and the other two. Similarly, the 10 commanders definitely could not sense the battle fluctuations of the ancient city of the King Yu. Let's end this quickly. The black dragon ancestral dragon shouted. The woman in white and the rest nodded. Whoosh! The 9 of them immediately soared into the sky. Like bolts of lightning, they plunged into the ancient city of the King Yu and headed straight for the palace in the middle. It's the ancestral dragon of the dragons. Damn it! They are actually hiding outside the city. The ancient city of the King Yu, that had calmed down, was in an uproar again. However, the blood-eyed giant who was guarding the ancient city of the King Yu did not panic at all. He stood on the city wall and looked at the backs of the 9 ancestral dragons. His eyes were full of mockery. Immediately after, the blood-eyed giant shouted, "All clansmen, leave the ancient city of the King Yu immediately." His voice was as loud as a bell, and it reverberated in all directions. Whoosh! Right then the blood demons in the city surged out of the city. Wolf cub, don't run. The ancestral dragon is already here. Let's get out quickly. Shuezhu shouted as he chased after the white-eyed wolf. If you want to go out, go out. I won't go out anyway. White-eyed wolf shouted without turning his head. If you don't go out, you'll be implicated when Lord Ghost King fights with them. Aren't you afraid of death? Shuezhu was extremely anxious. What is there to fear about death? The ingrate cried out in a righteous manner. Idiot! Shuezhu glared at it, then ignored it, and quickly rushed out of the city. I've finally gotten rid of that damned woman. The white-eyed wolf heaved a sigh of relief and raised his head to look at the 9 ancestral dragons. They seemed to be heading towards the central palace. Could it be the heaven-defying divine artifact was in that palace? But that's not right. I've been in the palace for so long, but I haven't sensed the aura of a heaven-defying divine artifact. Who cares? Let's go and take a look first. Right then White-Eyed Wolf turned into a stream of light and used the huge building as a cover to rush towards the palace. But the 9 ancestral dragons didn't notice the White-Eyed Wolf. Firstly, it was because the White-Eyed Wolf was too small now. He was only the size of a palm, and he was concealing his aura. Secondly, the 9 ancestral dragons weren't in the mood to pay attention to other things. They didn't even take the blood demon race's retreat to heart. They only thought that the blood-eyed giant didn't want his race to be implicated in the war, so he asked them to leave the ancient city. Very soon, the 9 of them rushed to the front of the palace. Boom! The door of the palace opened at the same time, and a monstrous aura surged out. Under the impact of this aura, even the 9 ancestral dragons couldn't help but have a trace of seriousness in their eyes. Dong! After the door opened, a series of footsteps could be heard, and the ground was shaking. Closely after, then King Yu walked out from the palace. His 100-meter-tall figure gave off an unparalleled pressure. Lord Ghost looked up at the 9 ancestral dragons. The 9 ancestral dragons also looked down at Lord Ghost. The moment their gazes met, there was a strong gust of wind, and there seemed to be invisible air currents colliding. I thought that you guys wouldn't come to the ancient city again after the opening of hell this time. After all, you dragons were almost annihilated in the ancient city previously, but I didn't expect that you guys would still come. It seems that the lesson I taught you previously wasn't enough. Lord Ghost spoke. His voice was as deafening as thunder. Last time, it was because of the 10 commanders that our dragon clan suffered a great loss. But what about this time? The 10 commanders have been lured away by Yi Zhong and the rest. You're the only one left now. And it's daytime. Do you think you can stop all of us alone? Black Ancestral Dragon sneered. Haha. Lord Ghost looked up and laughed loudly. Revive! Buzz! Right then dazzling divine lights shot out from the 4 walls of the ancient city. A huge enchantment appeared and enveloped the entire ancient city. This scene was similar to when Wu Baichuan and the rest attacked the mysterious sky ancient city. The entire ancient city had become a huge cage. However, compared to Wu Baichuan and the rest, the 9 ancestral dragons looked at the enchantment calmly. They seemed to have expected it. At this very moment, apart from the 9 ancestral dragons and Lord Ghost, there was no one from the blood demon tribe in the ancient city. It had become an empty city. The blood demons who had retreated surrounded the enchantment and looked at the 9 ancestral dragons with hatred in their eyes. Something was not right. There was still a small guy in the city. He was the white-eyed wolf. Right then, the white-eyed wolf was hiding in a building not far away and looking at the enchantment in surprise. Why did the ancient city seem to be a very powerful divine weapon? Should he simply move away from the ancient city? No. The ancient city was at most a supreme-level divine weapon. It was a far cry from a heaven-defying divine weapon. One should not be so short-sighted. Either they don't do it, or they do it big. At the same time, deep in the mountains outside the city, Yi Zhong and the other two, and the 10 commanders chased after each other. It should be about time, Yi Zhong muttered. Yes, we are already so far away. We definitely won't be able to sense the movements in the ancient city. The chief pavilion master nodded. Yi Zhong smiled and stopped in his tracks. He turned to look at the 10 commanders and said with a smile, "It's boring to fight and kill. Why don't we sit down and catch up?" The 10 commanders looked at each other, and then at Yi Zhong. They smiled and said in unison, "Sure." Yes. Yi Zhong was stunned. What was going on? They were still shouting to kill him previously. Why did they suddenly become so easy to talk to? Actually, I have long wanted to have a good chat with you. You are a human. Why do you keep helping the dragons? In the outside world, are you known by other humans as the lackey of the dragon clan, or the eagle hound? Shueda looked at Yi Zhong with a mocking look. Yi Zhong chuckled and was not angry. He said, "We humans have a saying. Everyone has their own ambitions. There is no need to care about rumors." Haha, you old thing. You are really thick-skinned. The chief pavilion master laughed. Yi Zhong, why do I feel that something is not right? The unfamiliar young man looked at the chief pavilion master, and then at the other 9 commanders. He then transmitted his voice. I also feel that something is not quite right. The 10 commanders are too calm now, Yi Zhong said to himself. The chief pavilion master asked secretly, "Could it be that something has happened?" "Impossible. Apart from us, no one else knows about this plan." Yi Zhong shook his head. "I hope that Ancestral Gragon and the rest will hurry up." The chief pavilion master transmitted his voice. Yi Zhong went silent. For some reason, he felt an inexplicable sense of uneasiness as he looked at the 10 commanders. As for the 10 commanders of the blood demon race, they were really chatting with Yi Zhong and the other two. They did not look like they were going to fight at all. The ancient city of the Nether King. The enchantment covered all directions. The 9 ancestor dragons scanned the enchantment with disdain. If it were anyone else, they would definitely panic. However, they were dragons. This was not the first time they had faced this enchantment. They were confident that they could break it easily. The black dragon ancestor dragon retracted his gaze and looked at the Nether King. "I will not talk nonsense with you. Hand over that heaven-defying artifact, and we will leave immediately." As expected, you are here for the heaven-defying artifact. Why are your noses so sharp? You have not been in the Nether King's hell for long. How do you know that the ancient city of the Nether King has a heaven-defying artifact? The Nether King was curious. The young man in blood-red clothes said proudly, "There is nothing in this world that can be hidden from us dragons." Blood dragon ancestor dragon? The Nether King looked at the young man in blood-red clothes and sneered. "You have probably forgotten how I killed you back then." The young man in blood-red clothes clenched his fists. The humiliation in his heart surged uncontrollably as he roared, "He is alone. Kill." Boom! Immediately, the 9 ancestor dragons were filled with murderous intent. The Nether King suddenly laughed. "Who told you that I am alone now?" The 9 ancestor dragons were stunned. "Come out," the Nether King said. Boom! Before he finished his words, 10 terrifying auras surged out from the palace. Immediately after, 10 huge figures suddenly appeared above the palace. "You guys." The 9 ancestor dragons looked up at the 10 people. Their faces were filled with disbelief. The 10 people who suddenly appeared were the 10 commanders of the blood demon race. What was going on? Weren't they chasing after Yi Zhong and the other two? Why were they still in the ancient city? The white-eyed wolf, Frenzy, and Shuang looked at the 10 commanders with surprise in their eyes. "It's strange, isn't it? We who went to chase after Yi Zhong are still in the ancient city." The 10 commanders looked at the 9 ancestor dragons with a sneer. What exactly is going on? The black dragon ancestor dragon roared. I am sorry to tell you this. The ones who went to chase after Yi Zhong were our clones, not our true bodies. Our true bodies have been hiding in the second level of the palace, waiting for your arrival. The 10 commanders said, and their figures flickered. In the next instant, the 10 commanders appeared around the 9 ancestor dragons and surrounded them. The situation was reversed. Clones. The 9 ancestor dragon gods' expression froze. The second level? The white-eyed wolf was also stunned. He looked up at the upper half of the palace. The other 8 commanders charged towards the blood-red-clothed youth, and the others. Stop fighting. If there's a chance, break the barrier and escape. Ancestral dragon black dragon thought to himself. Understood. The white-clothed woman, and the other 8 people secretly responded. The sudden turn of events caused them to fall into a very passive situation. Thus, they could not tangle with the blood demons. Rumble. The battle immediately began. The white-clothed woman, and the other 8 were still fine. Because each of them only had one opponent. With their strength, it would be difficult for the 8 great commanders to defeat them. But the black dragon ancestor dragon was in an extremely sorry state. 1 against 2. And the other party's strength was not inferior to his at all. In a short while, the black dragon ancestor dragon was covered in blood. Seeing this, not only did Shweta and Shwe not lower their guard, their attacks became even more fierce. Because it was not their first time fighting with the ancestral dragon, they knew the strength of these ancestral dragons. If they thought that they could underestimate these ancestral dragons, just because they had a little advantage, it was tantamount to courting death. Roar! The battle lasted for a moment. The black dragon ancestor dragon suddenly roared, and his body shone with divine light. The next moment, a huge black dragon appeared out of nowhere. There was a cluster of divine fire pattern between his eyebrows. This was the black dragon ancestor dragon's true form. Yes, under the pressure of Shweta and Shwe, he had no choice but to revert to his true form. After reverting to his true form, the black dragon ancestor dragon's aura suddenly soared. Whether it was the ancestral dragon or the divine dragons of the dragons, they could not exert their full strength in their human form. In other words, dragons who reverted to their divine dragon form were the most terrifying. Do you really think that I'm made of mud? The black dragon ancestor dragon roared. His body that was thousands of feet long was a few hundred times bigger than Shweta and Shwe. The dragon claw that was as huge as a mountain grabbed at the two of them. The surrounding void shattered at this moment. We don't know if you're made of mud. We only know that you have to stay in the ancient city of Qingyu today. Shweta sneered and looked at Shwe who was beside him. Shwe nodded. Boom! Immediately, 2 terrifying auras suddenly burst out from their bodies, and they were much stronger than before. Obviously, they had been conserving their strength earlier. Kill. Immediately after, the 2 of them leaped up, raised their fists, and punched at one of the dragon claw each. Boom! When the fists and the dragon claw met, streaks of destructive auras instantly surged out in all directions. However, after such an intense battle, the ancient city of Qingyu did not show any signs of damage. Seeing this, the white-eyed wolf could not help but have some thoughts. It was hiding in a building not far away. With the building helping it to block the fluctuations of the battle, it was not implicated. Should I move away from the ancient city of Qingyu? The white-eyed wolf thought to himself. Boom! In the sky above the ancient city, the warm-up was over. The 10 commanders attacked without holding back. The woman in white and the other 6 looked at each other across the sky. Accompanied by the deafening roar of the dragon, they transformed back to their original forms. Their bodies were tens of thousands of feet long, and their dragon power surged, shattering the sky. However, the Ghost King did not attack at all. He stood in front of the palace like an outsider. This made the white-eyed wolf very unhappy. It wanted to sneak into the palace, but the Ghost King did not move. There was no chance at all. Old bastard. It seems that the physical bodies of the divine dragons are not that great. Shweta and Shwe laughed wildly. Their fists were like a violent storm, as they punched the dragon claw of the black dragon ancestral dragon. Cracks kept appearing on the dragon claw of the black dragon ancestral dragon, and dragon blood splattered everywhere. The furious black dragon ancestral dragon suddenly raised its huge tail and slapped at the two of them. In the outside world, the physical bodies of the dragons were very strong. Even artifacts could not break through their defense. However, there was a saying that there would always be someone stronger. In front of the blood demons, the physical bodies of the dragons did not seem that strong, because the dragons themselves focused on cultivation. However, the blood demons could not break through to the imperishable realm, so they could only strengthen their physical bodies. Over time, the blood demon race's physical body and power had reached an unprecedented level. It could be said that no creature in the world could compare to them, especially the blood demons at the peak 9 heavens realm. Because their cultivation had already reached the limit, they could only train their physical bodies. The blood demons below the peak 9 heavens realm were actually similar to the creatures in the outside world. They also focused on cultivation. After all, they still had room to improve their cultivation. Similarly, for the blood demons, the peak 9 heavens realm was also a watershed. Because once they stepped into the peak 9 heavens realm, it was equivalent to standing at the top of the pyramid of hell. Seeing the dragon tail smashing down, a cold light appeared in the eyes of Shweta and Shwe-Er at the same time. The two of them raised their huge hands and punched out without dodging. Clang! Sparks flew everywhere. 2 dustpan-sized dragon scales shattered on the spot, and dragon blood splattered everywhere. The black dragon ancestral Gragon howled in pain. But at the same time, he spat out a dragon breath from his mouth, which instantly drowned Shweta and Shwe-Er. Dragon breath was also one of the divine dragon's methods. Shweta and Shwe-Er did not expect the black dragon ancestral Gragon to counterattack at this time. They were caught off guard, and several bone-deep wounds appeared on their bodies. However, they did not care about these wounds at all, because they had the evil sun. No matter how serious the injuries were, as long as they summoned the power of the evil sun, they could quickly recover. This was the advantage that the dragons did not have. In other words, as long as they had the evil sun, the blood demons would be in an invincible position. Boom! The two of them directly raised their fists and shattered the dragon breath with one punch. Simple explosive power. The black dragon ancestral Gragon also took the opportunity to swallow a few divine life pills. The life divine pills all had 3 veins. However, even the divine life pills with 3 patterns could not compare to the power of the evil sun. The injuries suffered by the black dragon ancestral Gragon could not be healed in a short period of time. I really don't know why you guys developed something like pills. They are completely useless. Shweta and Shwe-Er's faces were full of disdain as they summoned the power of the evil sun. In just a few breaths, the wounds on their bodies were healed. Looking at the black dragon ancestral Gragon's wounds, although they were also healing, they were far from being healed. And in such a battle, every minute and second could determine the outcome. Their disadvantages and advantages were immediately revealed. Come on! Quickly show me all your methods, such as divine techniques, battle souls, divine artifacts. Otherwise, I'm afraid you won't have a chance. Shweta and Shwe-Er laughed, and like 2 divine demons, they forced the black dragon ancestral Gragon to retreat. His injuries continued to worsen. The other 8 ancestral Gragon's situation was much better than the black dragon ancestral Gragon's. Their strength was almost on par with the 8 great commanders. However, if this continued, they would definitely lose. Because the blood demons had the powerful backing of the evil sun, we can't keep fighting like this. We have to leave as soon as possible. The black dragon ancestral Gragon scanned the battlefield, his heart full of worry. But more than that, he felt aggrieved. He was at the greater perfection imperishable realm, but he was forced to this point by a group of perfection 9 heavens realms? If there were no rules and restrictions, he could kill the entire blood demon tribe by himself with his cultivation. I won't accept this. The more the black dragon ancestral Gragon thought, the angrier he became. Clang! A ray of black divine light shot out of his body. It was a long black sword that emitted a dazzling light, and its sharpness tore through the void. Break the barrier for me. The black dragon ancestral Gragon roared. The long black sword instantly turned into a ray of divine light and slashed at the barrier above. This was a supreme-grade divine artifact. Clang! But at the same time, accompanied by two ear-piercing sounds, two axes appeared in the hands of Shweta and Shwe-Er. The sharpness was overwhelming. It was also a supreme-grade divine artifact. However, Shwe-Er and Shwe-Er did not stop the long black sword. They grabbed the axes and charged at the black dragon ancestral Gragon with murderous intent. When Big Shwe and Big Shwe saw ancestral Black Wolf's expression, they were instantly enraged. They gripped their battle axes and charged at ancestral Black Wolf. Clang! The black dragon ancestral dragon was sent flying again. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of dragon blood. Old Black, don't think too much. Hurry up and fight. As long as we fight with our lives on the line, we may not necessarily lose. Ancestor White Dragon roared. Yes, we are the ancestral dragons. How could I lose to these ants? The black dragon ancestor dragon roared furiously. The dragon god's power roared in all directions as he charged towards Shweta and Shweta with murderous intent. However, very soon, they had no choice but to accept this reality. They had supreme-grade divine artifacts. The 10 great commanders had them too. They had supreme-grade divine arts. The 10 great commanders had them too. They had battle souls. The 10 great commanders also had battle souls. However, they didn't have what the 10 great commanders had. It was the evil sun. The evil sun was a strong backing for the blood demon tribe. As long as the evil sun was there, they would be there too. Unless they had the strength to crush the 10 great commanders, they would be immortal. However, against the 10 great commanders, even the 9 great ancestral dragons didn't have the ability to crush them. We haven't even found a single heaven-defying divine artifact. Are we really going to be wiped out? The 9 great ancestral dragons were unwilling. They weren't afraid of death, because they had left a strand of divine soul on the divine dragon island. Even if they died in the Nether King's hell, they could be reborn. However, one had to know, their purpose of coming to the Nether King's hell was to find a heaven-defying divine artifact. Now, they hadn't even found a single heaven-defying divine artifact. If they were to be wiped out like this, wouldn't their trip to the Nether King's hell be in vain? There was also Qin Fei Yang. Originally, they had planned to get rid of this little bastard in the Nether King's hell. But now, they hadn't even seen him. If they were to be wiped out here, wouldn't their carefully planned scheme be ruined? No, they definitely couldn't die here. Qin Fei Yang, this threat, must be eliminated in the Nether King's hell. I'll self-detonate. You guys leave. The black dragon ancestral dragon roared. What? Self-detonate? The other few great ancestral dragons were shocked. The 10 great commanders also revealed a trace of shock. However, King Yu didn't have any reaction. Don't forget our purpose of opening the Nether King's hell to the outside world. We don't need the heaven-defying divine artifact, but we definitely can't let Qin Fei Yang return to the ancient world alive. The black dragon ancestral dragon said gloomily. Qin Fei Yang. Hearing this name, King Yu's cold expression couldn't help but show a trace of emotion. It seemed like frenzy didn't lie to him. This Qin Fei Yang was indeed a great threat to the dragons. However, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. To the blood demon race, this Qin Fei Yang was someone they could interact with. All right. We must kill him. We won't let him leave the Nether King's hell alive. The white dragon ancestral dragon nodded. Currently, only one of the ancestral dragons could self-detonate to break this deadlock. Come on. The black dragon ancestral dragon roared as a destructive aura rushed out from his body. Retreat! King Yu shouted. The 10 great commanders immediately retreated. If it was at night, they wouldn't be afraid. This was because after transforming at night, their physical bodies would be even stronger. However, during the day, even they didn't dare to be careless in the face of the ancestral dragon's self-detonation. Boom! However, at this moment, 3 terrifying auras suddenly appeared in the sky above the enchantment. The 9 great ancestral dragons looked up and saw 3 familiar figures standing above the enchantment. They were Yi Zhong, the chief pavilion master, and that unfamiliar young man. In an instant, The 9 great ancestral dragons felt as though they had seen their relatives as tears welled up in their eyes. Boom! Yi Zhong and the other 2 attacked with all their might. The enchantment that enveloped the ancient Nether King's ancient city shattered. Let's go! The black dragon ancestral dragon decisively stopped his self-detonation. With a low roar he rushed to the sky. The white dragon ancestral dragon, the blood dragon ancestral dragon, and the others quickly followed. As the black dragon ancestral dragon's self-detonation had scared off the 10 great commanders, no one stopped them for a while. Where do you think you are going? However, when the 10 great commanders came back to their senses, they immediately chased after them. Since you said you are going to self-detonate, then you must self-detonate. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving today. At this moment, King Yu finally made his move. A blood-red divine power surged toward the 9 great ancestral dragons, and Yi Zhong's group like a torrent. King Yu with me around, don't even think about touching a single hair of theirs. Yi Zhong took a step forward and stood behind the 9 great ancestral dragons. He waved his old hand, and a wave of fire surged out. Boom! The wave of fire roared, and the divine power of King Yu was annihilated on the spot. So strong! The white-eyed wolf stared with his eyes wide open. On the mountain peak, Madman and Blood Eagle were also extremely shocked. King Yu's strength was obvious to all. He was so powerful that it made people despair. However, Yi Zhong could actually suppress King Yu? No. That's the power of law. Madman stared at the wave of fire, and his gaze suddenly trembled as he exclaimed. The power of law. Blood Eagle was also shocked. That's right. It's the power of law. It turns out that he has mastered the law of fire. That's not right. Can one use the power of law in this hell? Madman looked at Blood Eagle suspiciously. How would I know? The power of law is something unreachable in my eyes. Blood Eagle shook his head. At the same time, King Yu couldn't help but frown and said angrily, Damn old man, what benefits did the dragons give you to always come out and make trouble? Each for their own master. Yi Zhong smiled faintly. At this moment, the 9 ancestral dragons had already escaped and met up with the chief pavilion master and the unfamiliar youth. King Yu glanced at the 9 ancestral dragons before looking at Yi Zhong again. All right, you can stay here then. As his voice fell, a wave of blood aura rushed out from King Yu's body. This wasn't divine power. It was a power filled with killing intent. This killing intent was unprecedented. It was even more terrifying than Qin Feiyang's kill formula. Yi Zhong's eyes also had a trace of seriousness as he shouted without turning his head. Beast Emperor! Beast Emperor? Madman's expression froze when he heard Yi Zhong shout. What Beast Emperor? Could it be the Beast Emperor of the Internal Sea? But he didn't see him. Swish! Suddenly, that unfamiliar youth took a step forward and landed beside Yi Zhong. What? It's him! Madman looked at the unfamiliar youth in shock. Yi Zhong looked at the blood aura floating around King Yu and said in a deep voice, His slaughter law has improved a lot since the last time. We can't be careless. I know. The unfamiliar youth nodded. A wave of fire instantly surged out. What? It's actually the law of fire too. Madman was shocked. Beast Emperor. Could it be that he's really the Beast Emperor of the Internal Sea? Also one of the 4 emperors of the Dragon Slayer Palace, the Supreme Beast? King Yu, you can't stop us. Why don't you let us go happily? I promise you that I will never come to King Yu's ancient city again. Yi Zhong looked at King Yu and said, Let's give it a try then. King Yu was expressionless. As he waved his giant hand, the blood aura around him surged towards the 2 of them like a torrent of beasts. This is also the power of law. It seems that the power of law can really be used in hell. Madman muttered. At the same time, seeing King Yu make a move, Yi Zhong and the unfamiliar youth looked at each other, and 2 waves of fire surged out. Rumble! The 3 power of law collided with each other. The void was immediately shattered. The blood demon race surrounding King Yu's ancient city also retreated in fear. Even the King Yu's ancient city below was shattering. Damn it! This is too scary. The white-eyed wolf howled, and hurriedly fled out of the city. Lord, we can't fight here. Looking at the shattered King Yu's ancient city, the 10 commanders changed their expressions. The power of law had already surpassed the limit of divine power. If the Ghost King had personally made a move right from the start, the 9 great ancestor dragons would have lost their lives long ago. How could such a thing have happened? The Ghost King looked at the lunatic inside. This matter is indeed my fault. What's done is done. Right or wrong is no longer important. Now, I'm giving you another chance. Madman said. What opportunity? The Ghost King was suspicious. Giant Dragon Mountain Range. For the past 100 years, they have been hiding in the Giant Dragon Mountain Range. Now, let the 10 great commanders chase after them. You will follow me to the Giant Dragon Mountain Range. Yi Zhong and the others will definitely think of a way to return to the Giant Dragon Mountain Range. You will wait for them there. As for the 10 great commanders, although Yi Zhong and the Beast Emperor have grasped the power of laws, the 10 great commanders can summon the power of the evil sun. It will be difficult for Yi Zhong and the Beast Emperor to kill them. So, even if you don't follow, you don't have to worry about their safety. Madman said. Giant Dragon Mountain Range. The Ghost King murmured and smiled. I naturally don't have to worry about the 10 great commanders' safety, because Shweta has also comprehended the law of slaughter. What? Madman was shocked. The Ghost King continued. However, Shweta's law of slaughter is only at the entry level and can't compare to mine. Madman frowned and said, why doesn't hell have any restriction on the power of laws? To be able to use the power of laws, this wasn't good news for him, Qin Feiyang, and the white-eyed wolf. How would I know this? You have to ask the Nether King, the ruler of hell. The Ghost King smiled bitterly. Nether King, the ruler of hell. Madman pondered for a while and sighed. I think the ruler of hell should be the dragon god of dragons. You even know about the dragon god? The Ghost King was surprised. Of course I know. To tell you the truth, that black dragon ancestral dragon is my master. Madman chuckled. The Ghost King looked at him in astonishment. This human was a little interesting. He actually wanted to trick his master? Don't think too much. It's just his wishful thinking that he accepted me as his disciple. Moreover, he only accepted me as his disciple because he saw that I could absorb the power of evil. I don't care about it at all. Madman had a look of disdain. All right then. Bring me to the Giant Dragon Mountain Range. We will catch them off guard, the Ghost King said. The Ghost King said, you are the one who will kill them. Don't count us in. If you fail again, how am I going to show my face in the future? It would be strange if I don't get eaten alive by them. Madman rolled his eyes. This time, it will definitely not happen. The Ghost King smiled embarrassedly. Only a fool would believe you. Madman snorted coldly. Back to Yi Zhong's group. They were currently running for their lives in the sky above a mountain range. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon asked. How did you guys discover that the 10 commanders were clones? It was Yi Zhong who discovered it. The Chief Pavilion Master said. The unfamiliar young man nodded as well. The 9 ancestral dragons had already transformed into their human forms. Hearing this, they couldn't help but turn to look at Yi Zhong. When I was facing them at that time, I kept feeling that something was amiss. Because looking at their expressions, it seemed like they were here to drag us down. So, I tested them and found out that they were just clones. Yi Zhong said in a deep voice. The Chief Pavilion Master frowned and said, did someone leak our plan? Otherwise, why would they send their clones to chase after us? We also suspected that there were spies in the beginning, but that wasn't the case. It was because Yi Zhong and I came to the ancient city to investigate the situation, and were accidentally discovered by them. So we held back. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon sighed. So that's the case. The Chief Pavilion Master nodded in realization. The unfamiliar young man shook his head and said, we were too careless this time. Yeah. Fortunately, Yi Zhong saw through their clones and came to rescue us in time. Otherwise, we would really have to self-destruct to kill our way out. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon said. The blood-robed young man and the others nodded. All along, Long Zun thought highly of Yi Zhong. He was even more important than the ancestral dragons. And they had always been unconvinced. On what basis? Wasn't it just because he comprehended the power of law? But now that they thought about it carefully, Yi Zhong was indeed extraordinary. For example, last time in the plains, he pretended to be Lin Yi and her disciple, and set up a trap to lure Qin Feiyang out. Yi Zhong was the only one who noticed something was wrong. Unfortunately, they didn't listen. As a result, not only did Qin Feiyang snatch the 4 great divine artifacts such as Sunset Divine Bow, but even their physical bodies and souls were destroyed. They had to admit that sometimes brains were actually more important than strength. Sigh. Even if we self-destruct, we may not be able to kill our way out. This King Yu's slaughter law has become several times stronger than last time. Yi Zhong shook his head. This is true. The current King Yu has become more difficult to deal with. The unfamiliar young man nodded. The woman in white turned her head and looked at the 10 commanders who were following closely behind. She frowned and said, "Then what should we do now?" Yi Zhong also turned his head and glanced at the 10 commanders. He shook his head and said, "It's almost impossible to get rid of them." The chief pavilion master said worriedly, "What I'm most worried about now is whether King Yu has caught up with us." Heard about it. Chapter 26:13. Don't go. Yi Zhong hurriedly grabbed the young man. The young man said angrily, "What are you doing here? To be humiliated by them? They're just angry." Yi Zhong was extremely anxious. How could they have internal strife at this time? "Old Yi, didn't you hear that they're calling you lowly? How can they say that out of anger? We saved them, and they humiliated us. Is this their way of thanking us? They really don't know their place at all." The young man snorted. "Who are you saying doesn't know their place? Are you implying that we're inferior to you? Do you think you're very powerful? Without the protection of us dragons, would you have been able to cultivate to the greater imperishable stage? I'm afraid you would have died somewhere." The young man in blood-red clothes shouted. "All right. Since we've made it clear, I'll say a few words from the bottom of my heart. When did Yi Zhong and I not help you when you came to the Nether King's Hell? Even the Sunset Divine Bow and more than half of the heaven-defying divine artifacts were snatched by Yi Zhong and me. But we selflessly gave these divine artifacts to you dragons. Ask yourself, if it weren't for these heaven-defying divine artifacts, would you dragons be where you are today? Yes. Yi Zhong and I are indebted to you dragons for your protection. That's why we have today's achievements and status. But over the years, we've done enough for you dragons." The young man sneered. "Bastard. You want to fly alone now that your wings have hardened?" The ancestral dragons glared at the young man. "Humph. To be honest, apart from the dragon sovereign, who among the dragons has the right to tell Yi Zhong and me what to do?" The young man's face was full of disdain. "You." The ancestral dragons were furious. Hee. When the 10 commanders saw this scene, they laughed sinisterly. They thought that such a small trick wouldn't work. However, they didn't expect the ancestral dragons to care so much. It seemed that the ancestral dragons did have complaints about Yi Zhong and the Beast Emperor in the past. Furthermore, this resentment was extremely deep. Go ahead and mess around. The bigger the commotion, the better. Because only by causing a ruckus would they have a chance to catch up. As expected, although Yi Zhong and the others were still fleeing, and they were still using their supreme auxiliary divine techniques, their speed was slightly slower than before. "Everyone calm down. Let's talk after we escape," Yi Zhong said in a deep voice as he looked at the increasingly heavy atmosphere. "All right. I'll give Yi Zhong some face. As for the rest of you, take care of yourselves." The strange young man sneered and fell silent. The few ancestral dragons didn't say anything else, but their eyes were extremely sinister. "Why aren't you arguing anymore? Continue." The 10 commanders stared blankly at the group of people. "Get lost if you're afraid of death," the white-robed woman said coldly. "You're unreasonable." The unfamiliar young man was so angry that he trembled. Sigh. Yi Zhong sighed and took a step forward. The laws of fire surged out and forced the 10 commanders back. Without even turning his head, he said, "You all leave first." "What about you?" the unfamiliar young man asked. "I'm fine." Yi Zhong shook his head. "I don't need you to save me." The blood-robed young man got up and glared at Yi Zhong angrily. Yi Zhong turned to look at the blood-robed young man. His eyes became extremely cold. Even the blood-robed young man couldn't help but shiver. I hope you guys don't fight among yourselves. Because fighting among yourselves in the Nether King's hell will cost you your life. Go. Yi Zhong shouted. The blood-robed young man's eyes trembled. He turned and flew toward the white-robed woman and the others. The current Yi Zhong was no longer as amiable as before. He was emitting an invisible pressure. Even the various ancestral dragons couldn't help but panic. Hurry up. Yi Zhong shouted. Let's go. The black dragon ancestral dragon looked deeply at Yi Zhong. He flicked his sleeves and left without looking back. The other ancestral dragons followed. The unfamiliar young man glanced at Yi Zhong and transmitted his voice to the chief pavilion master. You follow the various ancestral dragons. I'll follow Yi Zhong. Follow Yi Zhong? The chief pavilion master was shocked. This is a good opportunity to persuade Yi Zhong. As long as we can persuade Yi Zhong to join our camp, we won't have to be afraid of Qin Batian and Lu Zhenyang. The unfamiliar young man said to himself. Be careful. The chief pavilion master reminded him. Don't worry. With Yi Zhong and I joining forces, unless King Yu comes personally, the 10 commanders won't be able to stop us. The unfamiliar young man transmitted his voice. The chief pavilion master immediately turned and chased after the 9 ancestral dragons. The unfamiliar young man took a step forward and landed beside Yi Zhong. He smiled and said, It's been a long time since I fought alongside you. You, Yi Zhong shook his head. On the opposite side, the 10 commanders could not help but frown. If it was the 9 ancestral dragons, they were confident of stopping them. However, these 2 were not so easy to deal with. What was His Excellency King Yu doing? Why hadn't he caught up yet? Come on. Let's see how much you guys have improved after so many years. The unfamiliar young man shouted and the law of fire appeared, turning into an endless sea of fire that surged towards the 10 commanders. I guarantee that you guys will be surprised. Shweta smiled coldly and waves of blood chi burst out of his body. A terrifying murderous aura instantly flooded the surroundings. What? The law of massacre? Yi Zhong was shocked. The unfamiliar young man was also shocked. Chapter 26:14. The lunatic asked, Do you have the confidence to get rid of them in one fell swoop? Of course. King Yu nodded confidently. The lunatic pondered for a moment before shaking his head. I'm still a little worried. Do you have so little confidence in me? King Yu was displeased. I'm afraid that an accident will happen. After all, there are many things in this world that we can't predict. The lunatic said. Then what do you want to do? King Yu was suspicious. If you fail, then I have to continue lurking around them. Because this is the only way to grasp their whereabouts. Therefore, as the lunatic said this, he raised his arm and slapped his sea of vital energy. His sea of vital energy shattered on the spot, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. What are you doing? King Yu was bewildered. The lunatic seemed to feel that this was not enough. He took out a dagger and slashed a few deep wounds on his body. Are you crazy? King Yu was furious. How could one inflict such harm on themselves? However, the lunatic turned a deaf ear to him and grabbed his left arm. With a low growl, he tore it hard. Crack! His left arm was immediately torn off. Fresh blood spurted out like a fountain. The corners of King Yu's mouth twitched. This guy must have a masochistic disease. It's about time. This way, even if you fail, they won't suspect that I am the one who leaked the information. The lunatic kept his dagger and endured the intense pain as he grinned at King Yu. Looking at the smile on the lunatic's face, King Yu could not help but feel fear in his heart. Just for the sake of putting on a show, he treated himself so cruelly. This was a ruthless person. The lunatic smiled. Men should be more ruthless to themselves. King Yu smiled bitterly and sized up the lunatic for a moment before saying, Why don't you follow me to the ancient city after getting rid of them? There are no treasures in your ancient city. Why should I go there? The lunatic pouted. Who said that there are no treasures? You can choose any supreme-level divine art or supreme-level divine artifact. King Yu said, I'm sorry. I don't care about such trash. The lunatic shook his head. This is still trash? King Yu was stunned. However, if you can give me that heaven-defying divine artifact, I will be very happy. The lunatic chuckled. Haha. King Yu laughed and said, Don't underestimate my ancient city of the King. My ancient city of the King has treasures that are even more powerful than heaven-defying divine weapons. More powerful than a heaven-defying divine artifact? Could that be a sovereign weapon? Madman was bewildered and his heart burned with passion. Sovereign weapon? King Yu was speechless. He shook his head and said, "There's no sovereign divine weapon, but this treasure is very useful to you. You'll know when you get there." "If that's the case, then I really have to go and take a look," Madman said. King Yu smiled mysteriously and said, "I'll keep you in suspense for now. I guarantee that you won't be disappointed." "All right." Madman nodded. After a while, several powerful auras approached from afar. "It's them. Hide!" Madman roared. How? This made things difficult for the Ghost King. 100-meter-tall body would be very eye-catching no matter where it hid, and there was no place for him to hide in the canyon. If only Qin Feiyang was here. His concealment technique can allow us to hide in the void directly. Madman also noticed this and could not help but shake his head helplessly. "How about this? We'll hide behind the canyon and conceal our aura. Once they appear, I'll take action," King Yu said. "All right." Madman nodded. King Yu immediately brought Madman to the back of the canyon and stuck out his head to look at the void in front of him. "Your head is too big and too obvious. Let me do it." After saying that, Madman directly flew to the top of King Yu's head and looked ahead. "By the way, can't your body shrink?" Madman looked ahead and asked softly. "No." King Yu transmitted his voice. "That's too inconvenient. If we enter the human world, we will cause a commotion wherever we go." Madman whispered. "The human world?" King Yu muttered in his heart, and there seemed to be some desire in his eyes. Whoosh! Very soon, 10 figures entered Madman's line of sight. "What's the situation?" Madman was stunned. "What's the matter?" King Yu asked inwardly. "There's only the Chief Pavilion Master and the 9 ancestral dragons. I don't see Yizhong and that unfamiliar young man." Madman was suspicious. "Unfamiliar young man?" King Yu was stunned. Madman said inwardly, "It's that young man who grasped the law of fire." "So it's him." King Yu was enlightened and transmitted his voice. "He is the Beast Emperor Fire Qilin." "It's really him." Madman was surprised and frowned. "That's not right. We've seen the Beast Emperor before, and he doesn't look like this. He indeed doesn't look like this." According to this king's observation, his current physical body should have been obtained through possession, said the king. King Yu said inwardly, "Possessed." Madman frowned and suddenly thought of something. He transmitted his voice. "I understand now." "What do you understand?" King Yu asked inwardly. Before hell opened, Qin Feiyang went to the inland sea and destroyed the Beast Emperor's physical body and divine soul. As a result, the Beast Emperor is only left with a trace of his divine soul. However, because hell is about to open, he has no way to recondense his divine soul and physical body. Therefore, he resorted to this method, possession. Madman said inwardly. Destroyed the Beast Emperor's physical body and divine soul? King Yu was shocked. He had heard rumors about Qin Feiyang from Madman more than once. To be able to kill the Beast Emperor. Who exactly was this person? Wait. Suddenly, Madman's eyes flashed coldly. What's wrong? King Yu was shocked and hurriedly asked. Back then, Qin Feiyang destroyed his physical body and divine soul. The Beast Emperor is only left with this last trace of his divine soul. And now, his divine soul has entered hell. Doesn't that mean that his divine soul is no longer on Divine Dragon Island? Then, if we get rid of him in hell, won't the Beast Emperor be unable to revive? Madman said inwardly. That makes sense. King Yu pondered for a moment and transmitted his voice. Then this is an opportunity. Madman's eyes flashed. In the blink of an eye, the Chief Pavilion Master and the 9 ancestor dragons flew out like lightning and landed in the canyon. We're finally back. The white-clothed woman let out a long breath. Where's Madman? Ancestor Black Dragon looked around. Why didn't he see any trace of Madman? The Chief Pavilion Master and the other 8 ancestor dragons also immediately scanned the canyon, their eyes full of surprise. Why isn't he here? Could this Madman be the spy? The white-clothed woman frowned. No, Look, there's an arm over there. The chief pavilion master suddenly pointed to a patch of grass not far away. There was a bloody arm in the grass. That's right. That was Madman's arm. After tearing off his arm, he casually threw it in the canyon. The 9 ancestor dragons and the chief pavilion master walked forward. The blood-robed youth said, "Could this be Madman's arm? Who else could it be other than him?" Ancestor Black Dragon's face sank. Obviously, Madman had an accident. Looking at the wound on his arm, it should have been torn off not long ago. But there are no traces of battle here. Who exactly is it? The group of people scanned the surroundings, their faces full of vigilance. "Make your move," Madman secretly said. Boom! King Yu grabbed Madman, and the law of slaughter surged out. The canyon in front of him immediately shattered, and dust covered all directions. While the law of slaughter shattered the canyon, it directly drowned the chief pavilion master and the 9 ancestor dragons. "This is King Yu." The 10 people's expressions changed. "Master, save me." Madman's cries for help also sounded. "Madman." The 10 people's eyes trembled. But at this moment, how could they still care about Madman? In just an instant, the law of slaughter caused them to be covered in wounds. The 10 people released their auras and rushed into the sky. But the law of slaughter also rushed into the sky. At the same time, King Yu also grabbed Madman and rushed out of the dust, landing in front of the 10 people. "Why did you find this place?" The 10 people released their divine power, resisting the law of slaughter, while asking in shock and anger. "The entire Nether King's hell is under the control of my blood demon race. Is it that difficult to find your hiding place?" King Yu smiled coldly. The law of slaughter was like a huge wave, continuously drowning the 10 people. "Master!" Madman was also desperately struggling in King Yu's hands. Ancestor Dragon Black said, "I can't save you. You can fend for yourself. Don't leave me behind." Madman roared, "Do you think you can still escape?" King Yu sneered. Clang! Accompanied by a loud sound, 10 divine lights rushed out from his body. Those were 10 supreme-grade divine artifacts. Seeing this scene, even Madman couldn't help but be dumbfounded. This was too crazy. 10 supreme-grade divine artifacts in one go. Sabers, spears, swords, halberds, everything. As soon as the 10 divine artifacts appeared, they cut through the sky and surrounded the chief pavilion master and the 9 ancestor dragons. Die! King Yu was very decisive this time. The 10 supreme-grade divine artifacts immediately rushed toward the chief pavilion master and the others from all directions with the power to destroy the world. There was also that terrifying law of slaughter. At this moment, their bodies were already dripping with blood. "Go! You must keep your lives and get rid of Qin Feiyang." The burly man roared, and his aura suddenly soared. Half-step indestructible. Early stage indestructible. Early stage indestructible. Early stage indestructible. Not good. He released the suppression on his cultivation. Madman exclaimed. King Yu frowned and transmitted his voice. "Don't be afraid, he is courting death." Boom! In the next moment, a monstrous divine might descended from the sky. Madman looked up at the sky. This was the power of the laws of hell. The burly man waved his hand, and the law of slaughter and the 10 supreme-grade divine artifacts were annihilated on the spot. This was the true strength of the ancestor dragon. If not for the restrictions of the laws, an ancestor dragon was enough to sweep through the entire hell. "Go as far as you can. Don't come back." The burly man roared and slammed his palm toward the chief pavilion master and the others. The group of people was immediately sent flying. "You go to hell too." The burly man looked at King Yu again, his eyes filled with resentment. However, without waiting for him to make a move, the power of the laws descended. Ah! With a scream, the burly man shattered on the spot. Not even his bones were left. "Bastard! King Yu, I won't let you off. Let's go." Witnessing the burly man being obliterated by the power of the laws with their own eyes, Black Dragon, Ancestor Dragon, and the others couldn't help but feel sad. But they didn't dare to stay, and turned to flee frantically. Chapter 26:15. This is too terrifying. Even a greater success Undying Realm powerhouse couldn't resist at all, and was instantly killed. Frenzy's heart was in turmoil. The first time he saw the power of the Nether King, it left a shadow in his heart. He didn't want to see it a second time. After the power of the Nether King killed the Earth Dragon Ancestor Dragon, it dissipated. King Yu immediately took a step forward and descended towards the Chief Pavilion Master and the others. We must not let them escape. Frenzy came back to his senses and stared at the disappearing figures of the group as he transmitted his voice. However, not long after, King Yu stopped in the void. Why did you stop? Frenzy frowned. King Yu shook his head and said, You can't catch up. It's a waste of time. Frenzy fell silent. Indeed, they were both at the greater perfection realm, and also had a supreme divine art. It was impossible to catch up to the other party. It seemed that it wasn't as easy to get rid of the ancestral dragons. However, it wasn't for nothing this time. At least, he had gotten rid of one ancestral dragon. This way, he would have one less strong enemy when fighting with the dragons in the future. King Yu asked, Are you still going back to their side? Not for the time being. I'll go with you to the ancient city of the Nether King to see the treasure you mentioned. You're a man, don't go back on your words. Frenzy pondered for a while and smiled. Go back on my words? My blood demon race values promises. Moreover, it's because of you that my ancient city of the Nether King could escape this calamity. I will definitely not treat you unfairly. King Yu smiled. If it wasn't for Frenzy informing them, their blood demon race would probably be defeated by Yi Zhong's group one by one. The consequences would be unimaginable. Value promises? Frenzy was stunned. He really didn't notice. However, it didn't seem like he was fooling him. King Yu frowned and said, However, it will be troublesome if you go back now. What trouble? Frenzy was suspicious. If you go back, they will definitely ask how you escaped from me. How are you going to explain that? King Yu asked. Isn't that simple? Anyway, they have already seen me like this. They won't suspect that I am the one who informed you. When the time comes, I'll find a random reason. Or rather, seeing that I am the disciple of the Black Dragon Ancestor Dragon, you want to use me to threaten the Black Dragon Ancestor Dragon and imprison me in the ancient city of the Nether King. Then I found a chance to sneak out. Anyway, as long as they don't suspect me, everything will be fine. Madman said. You're really smart. King Yu shook his head and laughed. When Frenzy and King Yu returned to the ancient city, they found out that the 10 commanders hadn't returned yet. What happened? The Yu King frowned. We didn't see Yi Zhong or the Beast Emperor in the canyon. Did they stay behind to hold back the 10 commanders? Madman pondered for a moment and said with a frown. It's possible. Yuang said. Then hurry up and go take a look. If we can capture Yi Zhong and the Beast Emperor, then we'll have a complete victory this time. Madman said. All right. The Ghost King nodded. He looked at a blood-eyed giant beside him and instructed. This little brother is now an honored guest of my blood demon tribe. You must receive him well. Yes. That blood-eyed giant replied respectfully. The Yu King turned around and quickly disappeared into the mountains outside the city. Little brother, I hope you can forgive me for offending you last night. That blood-eyed giant looked at Madman and said with a smile. He was the blood-eyed giant that guarded the ancient city. He was at the perfection 9th heaven realm. It's fine. Madman waved his hand and asked with a smile. Where's the wolf cub that came with me? That blood-eyed giant said. To tell you the truth, we're also looking for it. Why? Madman's expression changed. After you left, we instructed Blood Bamboo to follow it. But this wolf cub is too slippery. It disappeared in the blink of an eye. Before the dragons came, Blood Bamboo also told it to leave the ancient city, but it refused to listen. After the dragons escaped, we've been looking for it. Until now, we still haven't found it. That blood-eyed giant said. This white-eyed wolf is really worrisome. Madman rubbed his forehead. Little brother, I don't want to hide it from you. We suspect that it might have died in the battle. After all, its cultivation is too weak. Blood-eyed giant said. Dead? Madman was slightly taken aback. He shook his head and said with a smile. It's impossible for it to die. Impossible? Blood-eyed giant frowned. You don't understand it. Anything can happen to anyone, but it's impossible. Madman said. Blood-Eye Giant said suspiciously, since it's fine, why doesn't it show itself? Madman lowered his head and pondered. Suddenly, he looked at Blood-Eye Giant and said, May I ask, where is your heaven-defying divine artifact? This, Blood-Eye Giant hesitated. Madman looked up at the palace in the center of the ancient city and said, If I'm not wrong, it should be in that palace. Although Yi Zhong and the others didn't tell him where the heaven-defying divine artifact was hidden, he saw the entire process of the ancestral dragons entering the ancient city. The various ancestral dragons headed straight for the palace in the ancient city. This meant, this heaven-defying divine artifact should be in that palace. It was indeed in there in the past. But after the dragons created such a ruckus, I reckon that Lord Ghost King has this heaven-defying divine artifact with him. So, let's wait for Lord Ghost King to come back and tell you personally. Blood-Eye Giant said. All right. Madman nodded. To tell you the truth, this time we entered hell to deal with the dragons and the Beast Emperor. On the other hand, we want to find an opportunity to persuade Yi Zhong. If there's no other way, we will forcefully control him. Madman said. This king knows a little about Yi Zhong's loyalty to the dragons. It is a little difficult, but this king believes that with your intelligence, you will definitely be able to do it. Lord Ghost King smiled. Me? Forget it. I don't have this ability. I am also afraid of these troubles. This matter still needs my brother, Qin Feiyang, to deal with. Madman shook his head. Qin Feiyang. This king is really curious. What kind of person is he? Even you admire him so much. Lord Ghost King said. When you see him in the future, you will know. Madman smiled and asked. What about the treasure you mentioned? King Yu laughed involuntarily. He turned his head to look at the 10 great commanders and said, Immediately send people to search for Qin Feiyang. Yes. The 10 commanders bowed and replied. Right. What does this Qin Feiyang look like? Lord Ghost King looked at Madman and asked. Madman waved his hand and condensed the appearance of Qin Feiyang's original body. Lord Ghost King looked at it curiously and couldn't see anything from the illusory image. He then looked at the 10 commanders and said, Did you see it clearly? Yes. The 10 commanders nodded. Lord Ghost King said, Then quickly go and arrange it. You must find him as soon as possible and invite him to the ancient city. Remember, invite him. Understood. The 10 commanders nodded and turned to leave. Thank you. Madman looked at Lord Ghost King gratefully. Your friend is also this king's friend. There is no need to be polite. Come, this king will bring you to see that treasure. Lord Ghost King smiled and flew towards the palace with Madman. As for that 9th heaven realm Blood-Eyed Giant, it also returned to the plains and continued to guard the ancient city. Very soon, Lord Ghost King and Madman appeared in front of the palace. At the same time, in the palace, a palm-sized small beast was standing in the middle of the palace and looking around suspiciously. That's right. It was the white-eyed wolf. Strange. I have searched the entire palace but didn't see any heaven-defying artifact. Where exactly is it hidden? Not good. There is someone. Suddenly, it shuddered and hurriedly took a big step forward and hid behind a stone chair, staring at the palace door nervously. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.